and my mic wasn't on, so I guess you probably didn't hear me. What's up, everyone? We're doing sort of an impromptu, last minute, just threw it together live stream to talk about the draft. But I know the folks in the Discord were really kind of really popping talking about the draft, and thought, you know what? Let's do a live stream. Let's talk about it. See how folks are feeling. I don't know about you. I'm actually I feel pretty good about this draft. But we can get into it. And I'm also going to do something I don't do all the time, but I'm going to do what the kids call a call-in show. So if you want to jump on, share your thoughts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link in the Discord. So if you aren't part of the Discord, you should join the Discord. There's a link below in the description. And if you want to come on and talk about how you feel about the Cardinals draft, I'll get a few of you on here. Let me say hey to some of the folks that are in here. We already got people jumping on, so I think maybe it was a good idea to do a live stream because it seems like people really want to get in and talk about it. So we got Classy Nasty as always here with the side eyes. Appreciate you being here. JP, he's excited about Myjai Sanders and Cameron Thomas. Me too. I think that was a nice pairing. Ronnie Rivers, a running back, just signed. So, undrafted free agents are going to be, news about that's going to be popping constantly. So obviously we're going to, kind of keep our eyes on that. John Clemens, what's up? Appreciate you being here. Ben Whitley, how would you grade this draft? My initial grade was somewhere between an A- and a B+. And we can talk about some of the picks I liked more than others. I feel better about this draft than I do about most Cardinals drafts recently. There were a lot of picks that I felt were like really, really good values. But as Moore's Legacy has said, Noah rises. So there was no way it was going to be an A+, right? But overall, I feel pretty good about it. But we can talk about it more. We got Big Play Slay. What's good? He's a Eagles fan. Hope you're doing okay today. Be interested how you feel about your Eagles draft. We got Nick L. He hates the Vikings because they took Ty Chandler, the running back that he loves. Trey McBride, that's a pick we'll definitely talk about. Let's see, big play. I love scouting, so any player you need heads up on, I got you. Okay, nice. How about Christian Matthews from Valdosta State? What do you got for us on him? Because that was an interesting one. We got NKT Bongo. Well, we didn't get Jemery Saylor. Yeah, we didn't, and he went late. But man, I like some of the players we did get. Red Sea, he's going to jump on here in a second, so we'll let him kind of talk about himself. Drew McWhirter, always wait and see, but I'm feeling good. And, that's fair. They have to show it on the field. I mean, a draft can look like an A, but, that doesn't necessarily mean it's an A. Hydrate. I got water. Okay. Thanks for being here, Gary. Appreciate you. So we've got a bunch of folks in here. He tall. He also had a good. I did look him up and I found a vertical jump. So, yeah. Listen, don't worry. There's not many people who have. So, all right. So listen, we're gonna get Corey in here. Who, if you're familiar with mock draft Mondays that we were doing leading up to the draft, he was kind of my co-host for that for most weeks. So, Corey, let's get you in here to see what you think about the draft.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
I am tired. It was a long 4-hour wait from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock when we actually picked somebody.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Not my favorite draft ever, but I'm not terribly upset.
Okay.
The only pick I really don't, two picks I really don't like are Trey McBride because I just don't get drafting a backup tight end in the second round when Travis Jones is kind of sitting right there. He's kind of, just sitting on the board. And then I've never heard of this cornerback. He could turn out to be an all-pro player. I don't know. I've never heard of him.
Right. Those are probably the two biggest head scratchers. I did a video on the McBride pick, and the McBride to me is a less of a head scratcher in terms of like the talent, but I get that
the talent's there. It's just I don't
right.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see why they drafted a tight end.
Right.
The talent's not the problem. It's just I don't see why they drafted the position.
Yeah, and that's a tricky one. In terms of drafting for today versus the future. I mean, I think there's an argument for it because tight end takes the argument for going with the best player available and taking him. I think is that one, tight end does, tight ends don't usually come in the league ready to contribute significantly right away. So you need to they need a year or two. We've got a 33-year-old tight end and a tight end who's coming off an injury, planning for the future, getting a really good talent. And I do think he'll see the field some. But, listen, you're in the Discord and, we were chatting there. I was a big, Travis Jones fan too. So I was disappointed initially because I really wanted Jones.
I was so sad.
Yeah.
I was so sad.
Yeah. But, and saying, he thinks he'd be third string because Max, but might not be ready to play right away. He might actually start. I mean, he's recovering from an injury, so I don't know if he'll start on the pup list or.
They said there's no timetable on Max Williams, but at very least he starts on the year on PUP.
Yeah,
but I still imagine he'll be ready by week 1 because he tore his ACL in week 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah. So, what would you say was your favorite pick of this draft?
Probably Myjai Sanders for how late we got him.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good value, right?
That was really good value. I loved that pick.
Yeah. I think that was a good pick, and then getting him and then Cameron Thomas. So you got 2 edge rushers, right? Kind of in the 3rd round, and with different kind of profiles. One a little bit bigger, a little better.
What they said in their press conference scares me, but yes,
yeah,
yes, I see what you're saying, but the press conference scared me to death because I've seen this story before.
Yeah, and Moore's Legacy asking why would we draft 2 back-to-back edge rushers? I mean, you need depth and rotation edge rushers. You want to develop them. Kennard, is on the roster now. He'll probably be here, but after, he may not. I don't know. He may not be here next year. I don't mind taking 2 of them. You really want 4 to 5 edge rushers on your roster, and when you look at Cameron Thomas, his versatility that he can kind of play inside and out some, that also I think helps a little bit, but. Yeah. Any other thoughts you want to have before we get the next caller on the show?
For the love of God, sign a defensive tackle. For the love of God.
Yeah,
I think we have 2 on our roster, and Rashard Lawrence and Leki Fotu, which was the problem going into this draft.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. They need to do something to address that for sure. Yeah. Hopefully they can pick someone up. So. Yeah. All right. Well, Corey, appreciate you jumping on here.
I will be in the chats.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, we'll talk at you later. All right. Real quick, want to say hey to Ian Kelly. He's not buying it, or the draft he thinks is a C. He doesn't think tight end was the move. Yeah. I mean, there's other positions I probably would have rather gone for too. Gary Shaw's not buying the draft either. Simon he thinks it was interesting. I still think it was a good draft. I get there were other positions I'm also different position besides tight end I would have preferred, but they didn't reach for him. The question was the position. But we got JP here who's going to jump on and share his thoughts on the draft. JP, I know you're disappointed that they didn't go ahead and draft Linderbaum in the first round. We kind of gone back and forth on that forever. So is it enough because they didn't get Linderbaum, or are there things you found that you like about it enough?
It was a unique draft because it was an interesting draft too. The one thing that's unique about it is I think because the off season was so quiet, so we didn't really know as to the direction they were heading. And looking back at it now, that was kind of good because there were a lot of picks, especially the Trey McBride one, which I wasn't expecting. I thought they were going to get someone there, because after last season's, we had some glaring needs that we need talent there. And you guys are right, tight end is not a glaring need. And I'm not gonna say Steve Keim is blowing smoke out of his butt when he said that he was the BPA during that, because that when scouting is so subjective that for example, I think so they should have drafted someone else. Another caller would say there was someone better. So I think Keim just did kind of your kind of prompt kind of answer to, oh, we just trusted our board, because there's no way we could look at their board and say, no, you didn't. You know what I mean?
We don't know, right?
Right. One of my I talked to after I calmed down a little bit, I talked to one of my buddies and kind of brought up a good point. Ertz has a history, although he's on a 3-year deal. Ertz has a history of being injured. Max Williams in this 2 seasons he's with us, both times you could see that he's made an impact. The COVID season he had that bad ankle and was gone most of the season.
Mhm.
Last season, although it was a fluke injury, he was gone half of the season and we didn't have anybody. And one thing that they were saying about, I think Saul Bookman from PHNX was saying that this guy is pretty balanced.
Mhm.
So that kind of helps us too in a scheme standpoint, where if he's on the field, they don't automatic because if we know that Max Williams is on the field, more chances are not there's going to be a run because he's more of a blocking tight end. And
Yeah.
with Zach Ertz, if he's on there, he's more of a catching tight end. With this guy, he could do both. And they were saying a lot that he's probably more the not pro ready, but probably more balanced of all the tight ends. I
Mhm.
think talent. I think scouting is eye of the beholder. Sometimes, because it is a talent. There's just some things that some people see that I can't see. We
Right.
won't really know until come Sunday how good he is. But I go off with your point where is that when they drafted him, I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Like we don't, we had what was it, Harris, right, as a backup tight end.
Mhm.
He's the guy that Kyler argued with during the pandemic season. Do you
Well,
remember him?
Demetrius or was it Demetrius
Demetrius,
Harris?
yeah, yeah. It's funny. I just say it's whenever I see that, it's kind of thing. It's like it's kind of like a little Chihuahua picking a fight with a Great Dane. Like, come on, Kyler, do you really think picking a fight with 6'5", 250-pound tight end is a good idea? But anyways, that was surprising. The trade for Hollywood Brown, it was he's not perfect. He's not a perfect player, right? I do. It does give me comfort that him and Kyler have a good relationship because
Mhm.
I feel like that's very important to Kyler's success on the field. Because I
Right.
feel like if we remember AJ Green last year, the biggest thing that really didn't pass the eye test is their chemistry.
Mhm.
And if these guys have natural chemistry, then I think that would put the Cardinals' offense in a better position than before. Um, it was crazy because I'm not sure if they knew that Jermaine Johnson was gonna drop that low.
Mhm.
Because Jermaine Johnson was, I mean, all of the mock drafts, even, remember Beast Rider. Beast Rider had him at the top 10, and he has insiders. And Peter King's mock draft did have him drop to like what 24, right, to the Cowboys. And so that was interesting. And as far as Majay Sanders, the one thing when I read through scouting reports, the one thing I always kind of pay attention to really is, the key word really is bend. And they say he has a natural bend, so
Mhm.
that makes me happy. Cameron Thomas, Brett Coleman is very high on him. I think like about a month ago, he did 10 defensive gems, and Cameron Thomas was one of the guys. And one of the scouting reports I read and I found on YouTube described him as relentless. So that's pretty exciting. And whenever I hear Steve Kahn said, "Oh, you're gonna play this position, or you're gonna play that position," I'm like, he's probably not. you know, the he played. The good thing is he's versatile, so he's played five tech, I believe five tech and outside linebacker. So um, the good thing is Vance Joseph uh, is really good at scheming those things. So as you remember, Isaiah was moved around.
Yeah.
Even Chandler Jones was moved around. Even the amoebic offense, where Chandler Jones became, was a defensive lineman, and we have another person on the outside. And sometimes Gardeck would rush, and sometimes Chandler Jones. Everyone started copying it after it worked so well on Russell Wilson. Um, but as far as those two guys, they get me really excited. The running back, I'm really excited with. I think the reason he dropped that low, the guy from USC,
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
Chase Edmonds was a fourth round pick. So normally, with because of COVID, I think they were discussing it that a lot of people got an extra year. So I think that's why the edge rushing class is so deep, is because those guys. Because last year the edge rush class was pretty bare. Like they even said that George Karlaftis, our favorite guy,
Yeah.
who
Right.
went to the Chiefs, who went to the Chiefs, um, was drafted in the first round. Was drafted first round this year, which I was kind of surprised because I always thought like there was the top four, and then there's a huge, the rest of them were second rounders. The thing with George Karlaftis is, I watch basketball too, and I see in basketball too where they go to college ball and they ball out, and then go to NBA, they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Why? Because athletically they just can't match up. I think that with George Karlaftis, he's very smart. He's very strong upper body, but if you have stiff hips and stiff legs, you're not going to be able to do much because chances are, if you're a pass rusher, you're going against the tackles, and the tackles are the most athletic offensive linemen that the team are basically just based off athleticism. Basically, all the tacklers are, for the most part, are the genetic freaks. The
Yeah.
6'6", 300-pound guys that can run really fast and really quick. So if you're not quick yourself, I don't really think you could be very smart, but I don't think you could really be as impactful.
Yeah.
But
There's,
I feel like
I was gonna say, yeah, with prospects, they're the players that have elite traits. They're the players that have elite traits and elite skills. And then there are the players who have good enough traits and skills, right? And I think Karlaftis is that third one. His physical traits are good enough, but they're not elite. But he has the skills and the drive. And some of the other players that were on the board had both. And then I think some of the players the Cardinals got, like Majai Sanders, I think has some of the traits and some of the skills, but needs to develop it a little bit more, right? So,
but yeah, and I really want to iterate this. I really think it's not Vance Joseph, because I feel like Vance Joseph is getting a bad rap for what's
you
going
hate
on
Billy
with the
Davis.
inside linebacker. I really think it's Billy Davis because
Maybe.
you know Victor DiMicagi played some snaps. Lucky Fotu and Rashard Lawrence played some snaps in the rookie season. Marco Wilson, I'm not sure how many snaps he would have played if Malcolm Butler actually, was in quote unquote retirement. He pulled the Gronk. He
Yeah.
pulled the Gronk on us. That's pretty much what he did. and and I don't think he would have played as much, but he did. But I still seriously think that he plays because the coach was high on him.
Right.
But I think Billy Davis comes from the old guard where, much if you talk to a lot of old linebackers, like yeah, some of the linebackers they don't really play until their second or third season.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing going back to the Trey McBride and going off what you're saying, I don't have a problem with the player because I think he's a good player. I just think that we really needed a defensive tackle there
Yeah.
because I feel like that's what we were missing.
Yeah. I want to get to. Sorry, I want to get to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks with comments. I want to get them in here too. But
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, so I would just want to, maybe before we let you go, tell me who you think was the best Cardinals pick in the draft this year.
Best Cardinals pick. I'm rooting for Cameron Thomas.
Mm.
Every Majay might come out to be the one that's gonna have, that we're gonna look back could be the best one in this class.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think him and the running back. I think him and the running back will be neck and neck. But I'm excited about Cameron Thomas. Tony Pauline said he's the nicest guy he's ever met. But I'm kind of thinking it's like, Buda Baker is also really soft spoken, really nice. But you see him on the field, he runs over everybody. So
right. Yeah, you can be nice off the field and be intense on the field. Absolutely.
Right.
So
as far as player impact, I think those two, the running back and Najee Sanders. But I'm rooting for Cameron Thomas.
Nice. Okay. Well, JP, I appreciate you jumping on here. You know, JP is a great supporter of the channel and is active in the Discord and loves the Cardinals and always has a lot of thoughts on them. So appreciate you jumping in here, man.
Of course. Thanks, Prof.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Peace.
Yeah.
All right, so let me get to some of the you know, I know there's a lot of folks in here, so I want to say hey to folks who jumped in. So if I missed you, I apologize. Not apologies in here. It feels like they went through the draft like they filled their needs in free agency. Not a bad draft player wise, but didn't fill needs. Yeah, and if you've been following the Cardinals long enough, and I mean, if you follow my channel, I've been a Cardinals fan. I'm old. I've been a Cardinals fan pretty much since they moved to Arizona, and but even in the Steve Keim era, he's always kind of reiterated that his strategy is that you find serviceable players in free agency, guys that may not necessarily be high-end stars, but guys that you at least feel like you can start with so that you got your bases covered in a general sense. Then you go into the draft and you take the best players available, and you're not stretching because you're not reaching because you're not going for needs. And then afterwards, you can fill in a few spots with, free agencies, the Keim time signings. Now, I get, some people may not think that they did a good enough job filling those spots, but, like it or not, this is Keim's approach. And I know, a lot of people hate Keim, so I get that. That's what he does. He's gonna sign guys like, Will Hernandez and Jeff Gladney, and you may not think that they're good enough to be stars, and that's we all have kind of our opinions on that, and that's fine. But that's what he does, and like it or not. So that is how he's going to approach it. We got It's Your Boy in here. Tight end was the best available, but not best fit. Now, I will say, I think he's a really good fit for the offense. I think, the question is, was he the best, the position to attack there, and, defensive tackle and edge rusher were certainly some areas of need. You could argue getting an upgrade at guard. Some people feel like they needed cornerback early. I really wanted Travis Jones to be the pick. I do think that the way the board fell with the edge rushers, that they were able to get some guys, Cameron Thomas and Myjai Sanders later that a lot of people thought might have been, second round picks, I think suggested that not going edge rusher was not bad. Maybe you could argue that should have gone Travis Jones, but I don't hate the pick because, I know people are saying, it's not necessarily a position need, but, I think he is going to see the field more than people think. With Max Williams recovering from an injury, he might start the season on the PUP list. And I have to wonder if they're going to be going more two tight end sets in their offense. So I don't know. We might see more of him. All the scouts seem to have a consensus that he was the most complete tight end in terms of he's a solid receiver and a solid blocker. I get that. Listen, I started out, I was disappointed. I was sitting there with Travis Jones as the guy I wanted. And, that's kind of what they did. And I know a lot of people didn't like it, but and I said this in the video that I did about McBride. I have a feeling that a couple of years from now, people are really going to love McBride and they're not going to kind of be upset about that. But right now, we've all got, it's all fresh, and I was disappointed too. So, John Clemens, thanks for being here. I was hoping for more O-line in the draft. I was in the first round, before we found out that they were trading away the pick, when they thought they were going to pick, I wanted them to go Zion Johnson or Kenyon Green. They were both gone by the time the Cardinals picked. So I wanted him to go guard, but I got to say, I love the value. Marquise Hayes was a guy that a lot of people thought was going to be a third rounder, and they got him in the 7th round. And Smith, the other, I butcher his name, Lasita Smith. I'm not sure if I've got it right, but he was a guy that a lot of people liked. So, you could argue maybe they should have gone earlier, and that's fair. I really liked the guards they got late, though. So I'm listen, if you follow my channel, maybe I'm a little more optimistic than most people, but I feel like they did a good job overall, especially with some of those players they got the value on. What happened to Corey Peters? I think last year he signed a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. So he's probably a free agent, maybe retired, maybe not. they do need to get a defensive tackle. Like I said, I'd hope for Travis Jones. They didn't go with that. They really need to do something about that. And that was a big part of their run defensive, issues, I think. So let's see. Just want to make sure I say hey to everyone who's in here at least once. We got Howie Dewey. I don't get how everyone doesn't like the tight end pick. Cardinals haven't had one in 30 years. Ertz Solder, Max coming off a serious injury, thought it was their best pick. Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be a great player. I think he's going to be a really solid tight end. I think people were, is he the next Travis Kelce? I don't know. That's high praise. But I really like, I like what he could be, but I get the disappointment, right? So, well, listen, we got someone who jumped in here, MG. So let's see what MG has to say about the draft. Hello, MG. How are you? I don't hear you. I think you're muted. See if we can unmute you. Nope, you're muted. So, well.
Hello. Oh, my bad. I'm here.
You are. Hey, hello. What's going on? How's it going?
I just joined.
Welcome. So, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on the draft?
Honestly, I'm not too happy with the draft.
Okay.
I think if you would have told me before the draft that the Cardinals were going to trade for a receiver and get a tight end in the second round, I probably would have been like, "What the hell?" Honestly. Right. Okay. I do like the 2 edge rusher takes after that in the 3rd round.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm probably repeating what everyone else said, but
that's okay.
Yeah, I mean I'm not too happy personally. I'm not too happy. I think people are trying to justify it. They're trying to find reasons that it makes sense, and I get that, in the Discord, some people are like, "Oh, I like I like the trade and whatnot," and I don't blame them for that. But just personally, I just don't see how it makes sense. I really don't. We've taken a receiver in the 2nd round 2 years in a row. So to go and to use a 1st round draft pick again on another receiver, I think that was a cater to Kyler Murray pick. And I don't know if I agree with that at this stage. I'm not sure. So.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to know because, obviously, and they're going to say this, they say they loved Hollywood Brown coming out of the draft. I do think there's some wisdom to pairing a receiver and a quarterback that had success in college, and I'm not saying Hollywood Brown is this player, but you see that with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, that they instantly had a connection. I think there's something for that connection, and that there is something to be said that, they, having some speed and not, take the top off the defense, but, at the same time, you're right. They've invested those 2nd round picks and receivers and have so far Rondale Moore still to show for it.
They don't even play him. I mean, to a large degree.
I think he was banged up a little bit later because they used him a lot earlier. So we'll see though. We'll see how much they use him this year, right?
Well, I'm just worried now that he won't get any usage, at least in the way he's supposed to, because that's Marquise's role a little bit.
Yeah,
but we'll see. I mean, apparently they want to use Marquise in a variety of different roles. So if they use Marquise on the outside and put Rondale in, I mean, that's 2 guys you got to be worried about on the defense. And if you're already shifting someone over for D-Hop, you're going to get one of those guys on. So I like it. It's not that it's not that I don't like Rondale or Marquise Brown on our offense. I actually kind of really like the idea of that personally. I think he's a great fit. It's just thinking about going into the draft. And I've shared this in the Discord before. I really wanted them to go trenches early on. I wanted, just when I think about it, we could have gotten Jermaine Johnson ending up at our pick. So there's your edge replacement. And then you could have gone Travis Jones in the 2nd round. And I think about that. And I'm like, dang, that's nice. And then 2 3rd round picks still. I don't know. Personally, I would have liked to gone in a different direction because now I'm, but we'll see, right? I think at the end of the day, we can't be too mad or too happy before any of these guys step on the field.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe, and I know I look at things differently than some people, but like I think there are 2 thoughts that I don't think have to be mutually exclusive. You don't you can at the same time think, hey, I wish they went in a different direction, but you can also at the same time think, I like the players they got. Right.
That's true.
Those don't have to be mutually exclusive. Like, if we didn't know how it played out and we came out of the draft with Jermaine Johnson and Travis Jones as the first 2 pick, I would have, in a vacuum, thought that was a huge win. So I'm
Right.
with you there, right?
Right.
Being, Jermaine Johnson was really one of the top edge rushers. Everyone in the Discord knows how much I love Travis Jones. And we would have been like, man, huge win. But I think I can also, think that and also think, but you know what? McBride's going to be a really good tight end.
Yeah.
That's going to allow them to have a guy on the field, and someone else said this, I think before, that you can have a guy who blocks and receives. So you don't have to shift them in and out for receiving or blocking. And, and Hollywood Brown's going to be a nice addition, So yeah, I mean, so you can have both thoughts at the same time, if that makes sense. So
yeah. I can't fathom, like, my mind pre-draft. I really can't fathom that they went 2 offensive weapons in the first 2 rounds. And I don't know. That's just very surprising to me. But it kind of fits the mold. I mean, it kind of fits what we've seen at Akeem and what we, it doesn't surprise me, I guess is what I should say. Absolutely. It doesn't surprise me at all.
That's fair. I mean, in all my years watching the draft, and I've been watching the draft closely since the 90s. So there's some folks in the chat who probably weren't alive when I started watching the draft. But that's been consistent. Like there have been some points where new picks were coming, where they'd been rumored for a long time, Kyler, and, even like Robert Kimdiche was, I mean, we know that was a bust, but he was
linked, he was pretty highly touted when they
and
when they drafted Nick Kimdiche, right?
Right, and he was mocked to the Cardinals a lot. So there are some of those that you saw him coming, but man, there's a lot more years where I've been surprised by picks, So yeah, and that's kind of what they do, and maybe some people would say that's part of his problem, and some people wouldn't. It depends. I know Keim's not very popular right now.
Oh, I had connection issues. My bad.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
No. So let me before we let you go, let me ask you, who was your favorite pick in the draft?
By the Cardinals?
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to say both of the defensive line picks that they had in the 3rd round are my favorite part of the draft, I guess. Okay. Because to me, that was such a glaring need before the draft, was not just inside, but obviously on the edge with Cameron or with Chandler Jones leaving. So to me, I think the fact that they at least got that reinforcement on the edge, and I think one of them can play inside. I'm not sure which one it is, but those 3rd round draft picks is what I'm satisfied with, I guess. That kind of, also the 7th round guard seems to have some promise as well. So
yeah, Hayes, I'm really high on that.
I'm high on that. So I think the back end of the draft made it comparable for me. So we'll just have to see how it plays out with McBride. I mean, hey, if McBride ends up being a great tight end and Marquise is a great fit, I think by midseason next year, Cardinals fans will be like, okay, wait, we this is great, but I'm worried about the defense, obviously, and the offensive line. I mean, it doesn't matter how many weapons you have. If the offensive line is in the state it was in late last year, next year we're gonna be in trouble again. So
yeah, and with the offensive line, and I know I've said this multiple times, and other people have said it too. We have 2 offensive linemen under contract in 2023 at this point, Rodney Hudson and Josh Jones. Now they're going to extend somebody, though. I think they'll extend DJ Humphries. And if Hernandez works, they'll extend him, but they needed to get some guys in the pipeline, and those guards are both talented enough that they have the potential that one of them, if not both, it's not a sure bet, but they're talented enough that they could develop into starters if
definitely.
So
definitely. Well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you jumping on in here, and love having you in the Discord. And anyone who's in the chat, we've got a Discord server link below to that. And if you want to get on and talk, I've got the StreamYard link in the Discord, in the general community chat. So join the Discord from the link below. There's a lot of folks like MG and Red Sea and JP, and those folks that are in there will tell you it's an active Discord. We're always talking Cardinal stuff in there.
Yes, sir.
All right, MG, good talking to you.
Yep.
All right, have a good one. All right, so David Pan, what's the earliest Cardinals pick that Joe can remember? That's a great question. Okay. Now, in terms of actually watching the pick, because it wasn't always, I didn't always watch it, but I followed, I remember, and I didn't watch this pick, but I remember when they drafted Tom Tupa as a quarterback but he became a punter. Some of you might not even know who Tom Tebow was. But like I remember when they drafted Garrison Hurst. I remember guys like that. I mean, from the 90s. So I've definitely been watching it. And Nutsack here has a good point. And yeah, Steve Keim hasn't done a good job putting a lot of capital in the offensive line. I would agree with that. We've drafted a few here and there, and some of them have worked, some haven't. But other teams more consistently draft offensive linemen, especially in the middle rounds. Like I think the teams that really do it best in terms of what they do with their offensive line, teams like Green Bay. I mean, they're always drafting guys in the middle rounds and developing them. You haven't seen the Cardinals do that consistently enough, and they've missed on some of those, right? But I love those guards they drafted. I think they got guys that were third and fourth round talents. So I really liked that. But let's see. We drafted a cornerback. Is he good? Nobody knows, because the cornerback they drafted is from a university called Valdosta State that is here in Georgia, where I actually my career has brought me. But there wasn't a lot about him. He's tall. I think it was a dart throw. They liked the physical tools. That was a head scratcher. There's other players I would have preferred they take there, and I know a lot of folks felt the same way. With a 7th round pick, I'm not gonna take them to task too much for throwing a dart if they liked a guy. A lot of 7th round picks don't make teams, so I will live with that. But yeah. So let's see. We got a couple other folks who've been in here. Yeah. WTF is Bird City. Yeah. Listen, I'm with you. I saw that Bird City hashtag they're trying to push, and I am not down with that. I mean, yeah, I'm a Red Sea or Bird Gang kind of a person, right? So yeah. And Dylan here agrees. He thinks both those 7 round picks were great values. Yeah. Yeah. So, the guard. Well, and then Jordan's asking, why didn't we move up from 201? Well, we didn't have to, because I think did he go before 201? I don't know. I'll tell you what though, I don't mind that. I like the guy. I like the value we got on the guys that we got, so I don't mind that. But there were a lot of guys like that kind of slid, right? Question: if the offense doesn't explode this year, was it a success? And this is probably where I differ from a lot of people. I take more, and maybe this is part of just being older, having watched him for a longer time. I'm not going to say that no. I take a long view. I respect organizations that build for the long term. Teams like Baltimore, teams like Pittsburgh. I respect how they do what they do, and they don't necessarily build by making knee jerk reactions. They do smart things in the draft. I know we haven't done that well in recent years, but I'm hopeful that this draft that I do objectively feel like they got some good value. I hope it's kind of a starting point in the right direction. So if it's the way it's a success has to be measured like 5 years from now. If these guys are on second contracts and contributing, if McBride is signing a second contract and he starts starting tight end, if those edge rushers are both part of the roster, are both at least, contributors, and at least one of them's a starter and another one's a rotational edge rusher. If, one or both of those guards are starting, if that running back, we drafted is starting, although I don't usually believe in paying big money for second contracts for running backs, but at least if we get a starter through, to me, that's if it's a success. You have to dredge it down the road. I don't think it, in my view, I don't think it's fair or smart even to judge a draft by the immediate year one impact. I think you have to do it by are those players contributing down the road? And, and that is an area where Keim hasn't been successful, in the last, 5 to 7 years in particular. So, that's kind of how I see it. But the Cardinals need new uniforms. Yes, I would agree. It's been time, right? So let me ask you in the chat, what was your favorite pick? Let us know in chat what you think was your favorite pick. Yo, my comment was pointed out. Okay, cool. I'm not sure what that was, but yeah. Okay. So the halfback that we got, let's talk about him a little bit. That is Keontae Ingram, right? We got him in the 6th round, and I think that's here's what I will tell you about him. If you know Brett Coleman, follow his work, he's probably the in my opinion, he's the best NFL YouTuber in terms of doing, the stuff that I aspire to do, like, doing content. He does league wide stuff. Brett Coleman loved that running back and that pick. He loved Keontae Ingram. He had him in his 2nd tier. He did a video where he did tiers of running backs, and he had him in his 2nd tier, which is really high, and he loved him. So, I think he does a good job with evaluations, and he, so I'm going to trust him on that. And, I'm a big fan of taking running backs, ideally between rounds 4 and 6. I think that's where, I love getting running backs in that range and kind of just having 3 or 4 of those guys. So I think that was a really good pick, right? Let's see. We've got some folks saying, in terms of their favorite picks, we got Myjai Sanders, I think was Moore's Legacy's favorite pick. David Pan says probably McBride, despite the Cardinals' poor history of drafting tight ends. Yeah. Myjai Sanders. Okay. McBride. And you want McBride to succeed. Okay. If you consider Hollywood Brown at pick 23, then he's your favorite. But real rookies, Hayes and Sanders. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Best pick was Hollywood. Yeah. Okay. And Jordan thinks it was Myjai Sanders. Yeah. Yeah. And then, but McBride was the best overall player. He can be George Kittle 2.0, extension of the line, down in my hands yet. And if you what the video I did, I made that kind of comparison that's the high end comp. So yeah. So let's talk just a little bit. Maybe what I'll do here is I'll go through the picks, and Classy Nasty says all of them. All right. Yeah. And Agent 47, his favorite will be the one who produces most, right? So when you look at the different picks, right? So we got Trey McBride, right? We all have talked about him a bit. So he's obviously going to be a tight end. He'll probably start out as a 3rd tight end, 3rd string maybe. But if Max Williams is starting out injured, he might be 2nd. We've talked about him a bit. Cameron Thomas. Now he is, it's interesting when they drafted him. I at first thought they were going to move him into the 3-4 defensive end like JJ Watt, because he's a little bit bigger. But to do that, he was going to have to put on some weight, some muscle. But I thought based on his size that they might do that. But, at least in the things we're seeing, the reports and even Steve Keim himself when his phone call with him when they drafted him said they wanted to play outside linebacker. So it sounds like they're going to keep him at linebacker, outside linebacker. But a thing to remember, with the Cardinals is that they play that 3-4 base defense, but they play a lot of that sort of, when they're in their nickel, they sometimes call it like a 5-2, or actually it's more like a 4. It's more like, I guess, a lot of times what they do actually is they get 2 defensive tackles or defensive linemen kind of in the center, and then their outside linebackers kind of get on the line. It looks almost like a 4-3 line kind of front, except then they have 2 linebackers and a slot corner. So like guys, Marcus Golden plays kind of more that outside linebacker, but when they go into that kind of nickel look, sometimes he's more on the line, almost like a 4-2-5. Thanks, JP. Like, and you look, and he's those outside linebackers look more like 4-3 defensive ends in terms of where they're lined up. So Cameron Thomas, when they get into that look, maybe they might move him inside sometimes. So we'll see. So is this true? Did Demukage just get cut? Is that true? That would be interesting, because he was a 6th round pass rusher. So anyway, Thomas it's going to be he's likely getting cut. Okay, maybe we'll see. I don't think so. I think they like him. So I was surprised when you said that. So anyway, Thomas is going to be that outside linebacker, but maybe I don't know. Maybe eventually they do move him inside more, that 3-4 defensive end. But it sounds like they want to be outside linebacker, right? Agent 47 saying I guess you're saying don't be or not so sure, or don't be so sure if this edge that will go play time enough because of Vance. I'm sorry, I didn't fully. Yeah. I mean, I think they're going to rotate them in, right? And I think Cameron Thomas will probably move around a little bit because he's a little bit bigger. Whereas Myjai Sanders, the thing, the whole thing they were saying about him is he's undersized. He lost some weight due to illness. And was down to like 228, I think, but he's put some of that back on playing weight closer to his playing weight around 240, 250. But he's more of that kind of true outside linebacker. So I think Cameron Thomas might move around a little bit, but Myjai Sanders is going to be more that traditional outside linebacker, consistently rushing the passer. That I think between that combination of them, they've got a nice pair of guys to kind of get into the rotation. And, maybe Cameron Thomas, because he's better against the run, is going to be a little bit more of, that early down. And maybe they bring in Myjai Sanders initially more as a 3rd down specialist, pass rushing specialist. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they work those two together. Right. So then we look at we talked about the running back Keontae Ingram, and I think a lot of people were hoping that we would see Benjamin really kind of take over the snaps for Chase Edmonds had, and we still might see that, but there's a distinct possibility that Keontae comes in and he ends up really being the number 2 running back. Really great fit for what they do. Big, powerful. And, it's interesting because like going into the draft, I really thought that the Cardinals were going to draft maybe a smaller receiving back to kind of replace Edmonds because that's more what he profiled as. But Ingram is like 6 foot 220, I think. And I'm just it's starting to look like, Cliff has a type when it comes to running backs, and they're big and powerful. So that's kind of interesting to look at. So I think he's a great pick. Then we have Ladida Smith. I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'm going to have to learn it though. Guard. We talked about him and Marquise Hayes both, who are both guys that are really great fits. Christian Matthews that we don't know a lot about, and then Jesse Luketa, and Luketa. Jordan saying Luketa dominated the Senior Bowl game 1-on-1. He's an intriguing pick, and I think what's interesting about Luketa is I saw a bit of the interview with Steve Keim, and they asked him, is he, where's he going to play? Is he going to be an outside linebacker or inside linebacker? Because there's a little bit of question. Is he, and he said that versatility, he's going to sound like he's going to kind of play both a little bit, that they like that versatility. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up being on the roster. I mean, everyone's putting him as an edge, kind of thinking him as an edge. But I don't know, he might be kind of part of that depth at inside linebacker. I mean, he might end up being on the practice squad, so we'll see, right? So, and then there's a lot of undrafted free agents are going to come through, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. So let's go to the comments here, see if there's. Let's see. All right, so Chris is saying, look at the everybody. We got every draft was a quality grab for where we got them. Seemingly did well in the draft. At least look at the pension. Like there was no one except for Christian Matthews that, in my opinion, seemed like a reach. Every other pick was either like a good spot for them. Like you could argue that Trey McBride. I know not everyone's happy with the pick, but like the value that's roughly where he should have been. Maybe he should have gone a little earlier. But every other pick, in my opinion, and also based on where most projections had them, every other pick was like a value pick where they got a guy who, people thought was going to go earlier. So I really love that about that. this draft, right? Let's see. How much dead cap money has Keim wasted? Is that the difference for trading for Hollywood Brown, AJ Brown? I don't think they've wasted more than most teams. I mean, I guess someone could do an analysis of the dead cap. They've made some mistakes in drafting. I don't think they were. I know a lot of people have criticized them, like you went after the wrong Brown, should have gone after AJ because he's, a lot of people think see him as the better of those two receivers, and I get that. They weren't going to go after AJ. I mean, the Hollywood Brown part of it was the connection with Kyler, and a lot of people talking about what they gave up and how the two, like Philadelphia gave up a first round and a third rounder, if I'm not mistaken, to get AJ Brown. And then the Cardinals gave up a first rounder and got a third rounder back. So that is, I mean, they got him for less, that third rounder mattered. Maybe it wasn't significantly different, but I don't think they were going after AJ Brown. I think it really was about, and some people have criticized this, saying that they're pacifying or appeasing Kyler. And I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing to get a quarterback players he likes and he's used to playing with and has a rapport with. So yeah. Let's see. David Jones I like my J. He was a reach though, in my opinion. You think he was a reach? Okay. I mean, I think a lot of the projections had him going somewhere, anywhere from, maybe someone reaching for him in late round 2 all the way through maybe round 4. So I I didn't think it was reach, but it probably depends. But that it probably depends on who you ask. But I do think he'll be a good pick for them. Hopefully, Aaron Wilson, Cam Thomas is going to be something special. I really hope so. I mean, I think he has the potential. I like that he's good with the run, and has the chance to be good as a pass rusher. So. Let's see. AJ Brown got paid, although we're trading for him. Yeah, so and that's another thing to remember. Like they traded for AJ Brown and immediately signed him to a big contract. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown will have to sign him to an extension. I do think they will. I mean, I think that's going to happen, but we've got a little bit, another couple years before we have to do that. Let's see. It's not like Hollywood had a bad year he had over 1,000 years. And listen, let's remember he was in a run heavy offense. So there's an argument to be made that this offense he's going to be a better fit, right? People acting like he's he's a solid receiver. So Tribe says, still a million miles with. Listen, the Rams are defending champions, so they're the king of the hill, right? We, Cardinals have to knock them off that hill and prove it, and they haven't done it yet. So, listen, that until they get to the top of the mountain, that's fair, right? And this is interesting. Yeah, I Am Bear mentioned this in the Discord one more time. If you're not part of the Discord, I've got a link to that below. It's a super active group. A lot of Cardinals talk all the time. Great group of people. A lot of the folks in here are in there. So check out below the description below. There's a link to that. It was interesting that they did take all seniors. I didn't fact check that myself. So I'm taking you, I'm taking you at your word on that, but I don't doubt it. And my initial thought when you mentioned that, and I haven't looked into this or really thought about it in depth, but I wonder how much that has to do with the whole COVID thing. I mean, are there more players who went back to college because they missed, that they didn't play that year in 2020? So are there more players that went back for another year, and there's more seniors because a lot of players that might have gone out earlier wanted another year? I don't know. I haven't thought about the logistics of how that works, but or maybe just the Cardinals they do like team captains, and they like guys, who are leaders, and maybe those just the guys they like tend to be more that way. So that's an interesting thought. So I'd be curious to ask Steve Keim why that is, right? Let's see. I want to get some of the comments in here. Players drafted are holes, depth fills, and future of the team. Yeah, and one of the things we talked about last year, right, is, and I know I've been talking about this a lot, is that the Cardinals really faltered when players got injured. They didn't have the depth, and I think that was a big part of the problem at a couple key positions, cornerback, receiver, offensive line, or center situation. And I think they've getting all those picks. I think they have added some nice depth. They're going to need to probably get some more free agents after the draft. And I would expect that they're going to sign some players coming up after the draft, as a lot of players will. So, yeah. And Chris points out, I know a couple of people points out, our rookie cornerbacks older than Murray, worrisome, or player developed in his position. He transferred around a little bit, so that's an inch. Like I said, it's a 7th round dart throw, so I'm just not going to scrutinize it too much. I understand that, the concern, hey, opportunity costs. There's some other players we could have gotten ahead of him and instead of him. And there are other players I would have rather gotten. So absolutely. I have to wonder, are they going to move him to safety, or is he just do they see him as a special teams ace, or I don't know. There's something they liked about him. I'm interested to see how it works out, but I don't know. Asking honestly, how do you feel about the Cardinals picks in general? I mean, honestly, again, I've been watching the draft for a long time. I do feel like this is one of the better drafts I've seen in a while. I get that some of the picks, Matthews, that's that cornerback that we don't know anything about is a head scratcher. I get that there were, McBride is a great player, but not the position I want him to go with. But like when I look at top to bottom, like I said before, it didn't seem like they reached. I just didn't see them reaching. And with the exception of one, maybe, the Matthews pick. And I like that they got some, one of the things I've always been a fan of is the way the Baltimore Ravens do their pass rush. And I've talked about this before. They draft guys in the middle rounds and they develop them. And, maybe they do keep some of them around, but some of them, but they let go as free agents and get more compensatory picks. And what happens is they keep drafting those guys, and maybe by their second year, they're ready to be a starter. And then they get 2 or 3 good years out of them. And they might sign one of those guys and keep one of those guys on the roster. But a lot of times what they'll do is they'll let them go in free agency, and then they'll get a compensatory pick, and then they have a pipeline going. So when that guy moves on, they've got another guy who's been developed and ready to go. So I don't know if the Cardinals are necessarily going to do that, but they do, there are those, you can find pass rushers in the middle rounds if you give them a little time to develop. So, I like getting those 2 guys. I think at least one of them should work out, if not both of them. So yeah, I mean, I do feel like it's a good draft. I like that they got a running back late. I like those guards they got. And I know this is a really kind of, a lot of people wonder, should they take a chance on Justin Ross? Like everyone passed on him, and so the medicals are probably a concern. He'll probably get signed as an undrafted free agent somewhere. I wouldn't mind if they brought him in as an undrafted free agent. That he's a guy who has some talent, but there were some concerns that with that back injury, that he maybe, some people I think have questioned, should he even be playing at all in terms of the risk of what it could do long term. So, but if the medical checks out, then I wouldn't mind. I'd be fine with bringing him. We need a big outside receiver. So, yeah. So let's see. Here's a question. They said on YouTube that the cornerback could end up like Justin Bethel, Pro Bowl for special teams. Just got to see what he can do. And that's, when I think about like the guy, Matthews, like you think about what's a 6'4", is he, or he's 6, was he 6'2" or 6'4"? I guess I can just look that up here. I've got it up on my own computer. He is supposed to be, no, they don't even have the information here on NFL.com. That's how, I think someone said he was 6'4", but like a big corner like that who wasn't on anyone's radar, you have to wonder, are they drafting him as sort of a gunner on special teams? And, if so, then listen, if you can get a guy, if he's really profiles as that and he's that good, then I think that's not there are worse ways you can spend a 7th round pick than to get a guy who's going to be, a really good special team or for you. So asking, and I know we talked about this a little bit, Max Williams. So, in terms of, Trey McBride, so right now, the Cardinals have obviously Zach Ertz, Max Williams, who's coming back from an injury. They drafted Trey McBride, and then I think it was Steven Anderson, I think was the corner, or I'm sorry, the tight end they signed. I believe he was from the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken, who is sort of a backup special teamers guy, right? So they have, they really have kind of those 4 guys, and then there's a few guys kind of on, I don't know, sort of the radar, guys that like Demetrius, was it Harris, Darrell Daniels, guys that have been on the roster before that probably won't necessarily be there now. So the Cardinals will keep between 3 and 4 tight ends usually. More often than not, they keep 3 tight ends on the roster. Sometimes they'll go 4. So, you would assume that Ertz is going to be there, and then obviously McBride, and then Max Williams, I think, would be the number 3. And if they're going 4, Steven Anderson will be there. He's a guy who profiles as a backup special teamer. So, that it wouldn't be it wouldn't be that surprising if he ended up not making the team if they were just going with 3. But with Max Williams coming back from injury, I think the way this could help is, maybe they don't rush getting Max Williams back. Maybe they let him, they keep him on the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list, and maybe he starts the season on that, right? And maybe they go into the season with McBride, Ertz, and Steven Anderson as the tight ends, and Max Williams is, on the PUP list. And if Max Williams, when they don't push it, but when Max Williams is fully healthy, then they make a decision there, because keep in mind, I mean, it's always with the way injuries work, it's not out of the realm of the possibility that, maybe week 3, week 4, Max Williams is ready to go and Ertz is banged up or McBride's banged up or Anderson's banged up and one of those guys gets on, the IR. But if they're all healthy, maybe they cut Steven Anderson and then sign him to the practice squad. And, if they've expanded the practice squad, post COVID, and I don't know if those rules are going to still be in place this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were. And if you watch what happened last year, the way things really worked, teams were, and they added rules that made it easier to call players up from the practice squad and demote them or, send them back after games, just because of COVID and all the injuries. And, with the 17 games schedule, I think they might keep that so that you just have more flexibility to have players on your practice squad that can be brought up. Instead of 10, they had 16, and make it easier to call them up and then send them back to kind of account for that. So I don't know. I think, maybe if Max is healthy, and they decide they only want 3 tight ends on the roster, they're probably putting Steven Anderson on the practice squad, right? So how it affects Max in terms of on the field now, right? Does McBride so let's say if Max is healthy, and he's on the roster, is McBride getting the snaps that Max would get? I mean, it probably cuts into his snaps, right? I think they're going to want to get McBride out there. So how it affects Max, he may see less snaps. They may take more time bringing him back. And I think, I do think that they'd like to keep Max around. I think he's a really good fit. And I could see a scenario where a couple years down the road when Ertz does retire, maybe it's McBride and Max, or maybe it's someone else. So yeah. So let's look at this. Today we're talking about tight end, but 2019 system didn't use. So Cliff so they didn't use, system didn't use, I think he meant them. So this some adjustment of Cliff, I think, but I love me. And listen, coming out of college or coming, in as the head coach, everyone talked about how Cliff, had the air raid system, and they really, the first year they kind of did a hybrid of it, but they did a lot of the air raid stuff, and they didn't use tight ends as much in the first year he was here, but over time he has evolved his offense to use the tight end more. So I do think we're going to be using. I do think we're going to see them use tight ends a little bit more. And you think about it. With Kyler Murray, and I know people like to make the short jokes, but having those big targets probably does help him. Being a little bit of smaller quarterback. So maybe having more of those two tight end sets and using more tight end receiving is going to help him out in that way. So yeah. What about Aaron Brewer as a long snapper tight end? So like if you're like me, I play Madden, and whenever I do a franchise, the long snapper is always listed as a tight end, and they're always rated at like 42 or really low rating player rating or 38. And I have to admit, first thing I always do is I go cut the long snapper and just have an offensive lineman. So long snappers, we think of them as tight ends, but honestly, because of the Madden effect, but they don't. Aaron Brewer is not really thought of as a tight end on this roster. He's not used as a tight end. The way it goes in the NFL is every team will have a long snapper, and that's what they are. They are a long snapper, nothing else. Madden football wants to put them in a position, so they throw him in tight end, so he doesn't figure into the calculus of tight end. So Crix Cod says, what would you grade the draft? I say B+. And that's, someone in our Discord asked what everyone graded, and I came in there too, right? A- B+ area to, and the only thing that brings it down, there's a couple of things that brings it down. One, no Matariza, right? So it couldn't be an A+. That's half joke. But I love the player McBride, but I like I said, the position was a head scratcher. I still think it's a good pick, and it makes sense in one way, but that brings it down a little bit. That I think there maybe were, again, I like McBride as a player, and I think he'll be good for us. But like if he was really that far and above everyone else in terms of this, Kimes kind of comment as to why he took him was he was by far the best player on our board at the time. It wasn't close. And so that makes sense. But like if you're in that situation, and if you're in a situation where the best player on the board is a player that is a position that you don't really necessarily want to go after, and the positions you'd rather go after, you have to reach, there's an argument for trading back, right? So the argument one could make is, well, if McBride was the best player and, you really felt there were other positions you needed to address and just the value wasn't right, trade back a little bit, let someone else take McBride, get another pick, in day two, and do that. So, that would be the argument, right? Devil's advocate of maybe what they could have done. The Christian Matthew pick was a little bit of a head scratcher, but I'm giving them, like I said, it's a 7th round pick, so I'm not going to quibble about it too much. So, for those reasons, and maybe I would have liked to see them come out with a defensive tackle, to help with the run defense. So those are the reasons that it downgrades it a little bit for me, but I'm probably around where you're at, B+, A-. So, what do I think about a division? I'm going to be honest. I haven't even looked at them closely, but so maybe we'll do this. In fact, why don't we do this live, because live makes for good TV. Okay. So, Los Angeles Rams, do they even remember how to pick? They don't pick until, third round was their first pick. So Logan Brust got a guard, Jacoby Durant, cornerback, Karen Williams, running back, Quentin Lake, safety, Darian Kendrick, cornerback, Daniel Hardy, defensive end, Russ Yeast, safety, AJ Arcuri, offensive tackle. I mean, Logan Brust is a good player. I think they could use some. I think this would be valuable for them. Building some offensive line. Jacoby Durant, they got a cornerback. When they don't pick to the third round. It's hard to do well. I think Kyron Williams could be a nice pick for them. They've had some injuries with running backs, so they can use some depth there. I don't know. Darren Kendrick, cornerback from Georgia late, is a nice pick. I don't know a lot about some of these players, so we didn't really look at safeties a lot because I didn't look at safeties a lot because I didn't see that as a position we were looking at. Here's what I would say with the Rams. I know, like everyone talks about how they trade away their picks. They do have a good track record of the picks that they do make end up contributing, and like there's data to support that. So there's a certain degree where I'm going to trust that they know what they're doing, even if there's some of these players I don't know much about. So, for a team, it's hard to win the draft when you don't pick to the third round. But I do like the Logan Bruss pick, getting a couple cornerbacks there, running back. I think they did fine. Let's see. So then San Francisco 49ers, they didn't pick till round 2. They got a Drake. They traded for Troy Hill today. Okay, so that's happy. Payo Time was happy. Okay, if you know Payo Time, he's a good dude who does Rams content. Drake Jackson, they got an edge rusher. Nice edge rusher in round 2. It was deep class for that. Running back Tyrion Davis-Price. So from LSU, that was an interesting one for me because I looked at the running backs a little bit, and that's not a guy who was really on my radar. But here's what I would say. San Francisco does a good job with running backs and their blocking scheme, and they throw guys in. It's interesting. They did draft 2 running backs last year, so that they took another one. That's interesting. Danny Gray, I think that's a good kind of pick receiver. Spencer Burford, developmental guard. I think that's a nice pick. He has some good traits. They got a cornerback. They need cornerback. I don't know much about Wilmac out of Toledo, so hopefully for them, they know what they're doing. I can't pronounce the name, but the tackle out of Fordham. Okay. Kalaya Davis. I was listening to Brett Coleman's live stream when they took him, and he's a guy out of University of Central Florida, not necessarily a big name, but one of the things they said is San Francisco does a good job of drafting these athletic defensive linemen and developing them. So, so there you go, right? So I don't know much about him, but they'll probably be fine. Castro Fields is a nice cornerback late. Brock Purdy, quarterback late. Okay, I think that's fine. Seattle, let's see, that'd be interesting what they did. Charles Cross, pick 9, offensive tackle. That's solid, I think. I think that's a good pick for them. I'm a big fan of Boye Mafe. Some people, I think, what's his name on ESPN? The guy who's been there forever. Mel Kiper thought that was a reach, but I liked Boye Mafe, so I like that. They got Kenneth Walker, who some people think he's the best running back in the class. Some people think he's the second. So they got a good running back there. Abraham Lucas, nice tackle. Kobe Bryant, cornerback. Tariq Rui, they got those 2 cornerbacks. Seattle drafts cornerbacks late, and they make them work. They do, look at the Legion of Boom and Richard Sherman. They drafted Tariq Woolen as such really good physical tools. Kobe Bryant's, out of Cincinnati, played across from Sauce Gardner. That's a nice pick. Tariq Smith, an edge out of Ohio State. Bo Melton, wide receiver. Now, Melton's a really good pick. He's an interesting guy because he had offers from a lot of universities, but he chose to go to Rutgers, I think, because his parents went there. I think it's a kind of just as a personal commitment. And he could have gone, I think they said he got, if I'm remembering correctly, offers from like Ohio State and places like that. But, the Rutgers offense wasn't going to showcase him very well. So they probably got a really good player there. And then Jerick Young out of Lenore Ryan. I heard, again, he's another guy you don't know much about, but Brett Coleman was talking about him on his stream, and he's a guy who's a physical freak. And I think when they drafted him, they listed him as tight end, but he's, he's a little bit like his physicality and his build. He's like just a little bit smaller version of like DK Metcalf in terms of the way he's built. Not saying he's that good of a player. No, but I actually think, in my opinion, of the other 3 teams, I think they had the best draft of those 3. I like their draft. Seattle, I think, really did. Now they just need a quarterback, right? So looking at the other teams in the division, and 49ers did have good undrafted free agent. They got Poe out of Mercer. Yeah. And then I heard they got Donovan West out of ASU. So yeah, maybe Baker Mayfield's going there. Now here's the thing about Seattle. If you remember back to when, again, I'm older, so I remember some of this stuff, but when the Legion of Boom, when they started that, right? When they built that roster, they built this roster first with some of those great defensive players in particular. And then they drafted Russell Wilson, so they built the team first and then got the quarterback. And then that's how they were able to really capitalize on Russell Wilson's rookie contract. In fact, in my memory, the way I remember it, and maybe someone else remembers differently, you can tell me, but I just really feel like when Seattle built the Legion of Boom, then drafted Russell Wilson and had Russell Wilson on that rookie contract for cheap and this great roster around him, to me, that feels like the point in kind of recent history where that whole narrative about taking advantage of a rookie quarterback contract, how having them on that rookie contract's an advantage. I feel like that's when that narrative came out. Everyone saw what Seattle did and said, look at the way they did that, right? And I think you could also argue around the same time, Beth and Roethlisberger, there was a little bit of the same situation with that too. And I think he was a little earlier, but it really felt like the way they built the roster, that's where that narrative really emerged of taking advantage of the rookie contract of the quarterback. And because they were able to do that, right? And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think they won their Super Bowl when he was on his rookie contract. Correct me if I'm wrong. So where I'm going with that is I wonder if they're trying to do the same thing again, right? Build that defense, build that roster, and then maybe next year draft that quarterback, right? And obviously this is not a great rookie. This is not a great quarterback class right now. So maybe that's the smart way to do it, right? So anyway, that's interesting, right? Let's see. Want to get some questions and comments in here. All right, let's see. Sorry. Yeah, they could have got Malik Willis, right? Maybe Baker Mayfield, maybe, right? It's interesting it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, right? That's what the Cardinals tried to do. Okay, yeah. Let's see. We got Eddie Spaghetti. I think that this was an all right draft. At least we got some defensive players and alignment. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Want to make sure I'm catching. Let's see. What Robert, what's going on, Robert? Cardinals have a YouTube video where they call McBride to welcome to the team. He was targeted with that second round pick, highest graded player on their draft board. They looked happy. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, Cricks is the same place that, mainly question the DB, right? Yeah. All right. Let's see. Is it me or is anyone else excited to see the Cardinals offense now? I can't wait. I think so too. I know there's been a lot of questions and concerns about the lack of activity in free agency, right? And I've been kind of, I've been very much a wait and see, and I feel like they were going for depth. I've talked about this on my channel before, that their strategy was to sign depth guys like Will Hernandez and guys like that, and then to hold on to the compensatory picks that they're going to get next year, because they're likely to get a third round for Christian Kirk, a fifth rounder for losing Chandler Jones, and a sixth rounder for losing Chase Edmonds. That's what it's currently projected to be. And if they had signed a bunch of free agents, high dollar free agents, they were going to lose some of those. So I think they were trying to hold on to those, sign guys like Will Hernandez and Mike or Vigil, the linebacker, those value guys, and then go into the draft, and then sign guys after the draft, which now, as of 4 p.m. Eastern time Monday, that's when they can sign free agents, and it will not count against the compensatory system. So look for them to sign some guys like that. So whether you like it or not, I think that's been their strategy, and that seems to be how it's played out. And that's frustrated a lot of folks, right? And but like when you look at it, I'm stepping back and looking at the roster, and I'm like, I think they did lose. Losing Chandler Jones is a concern, but at the same time, he had 1 5-sack game and then only had, I think, 5.5 sacks over the rest of the season. So I mean, so maybe they'll be okay. I don't know. But like when I look at their roster now and try to take a step back, the defense, I think, is, if they might not be as good, especially at the edge rush, but if they can sign, someone like, Akeem Hicks or Clowney or someone like that, or get an edge rusher, it could be just as good. But like the offense, like look at it this way, like the let's look at start with the pass catchers. Last year they started the season, right? Started the season with Hopkins, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, and Max Williams was the starting tight end, right? They traded for Ertz later. Well, right now you have that same offense, except you've traded. Essentially, what you've done is you've traded Christian Kirk for Hollywood Brown, who I think is at least as good, if not an upgrade. You have Ertz to start. I know we traded for him, but like in terms of what our offenses started with last year, we now have Ertz and Max Williams and McBride, and then we still have Hopkins, Green, Rondale Moore, and Hollywood Brown. Like to me, that's an improved set of pass catchers from what we started with last year, right? As much as everyone's talked about, I think this roster's gotten worse. I think the pass catchers have gotten better than where they started with last year, and maybe even better where they ended. They traded for Ertz, like I said. Like you add McBride to that, I think you could say that this group of pass catchers is better than they were last year. They lost Chase Edmonds, who's a pass catcher, right? And it looks like David agrees with that. But they've also, they've added, again, they've added the rookie who we'll see how he is. They still might sign a free agent running back, but I think that on that side, they're better. Now let's look at the offensive line. Last year, their starting offensive line, DJ Humphries, right? Justin Pugh, Hudson. We have right guard, though, was Josh Jones, right? And then right tackle Beacham. We have all those guys on the roster still, right? Except we've added Will Hernandez, who, struggled with the Giants, but he's no worse as a guard, I would argue. And when you look at the way he graded, he's no worse than how Josh Jones played. Now, Josh Jones needs to be a tackle. He's better as a tackle. He played better when he was a tackle. So we've got, we've got all those starters, but we've added Will Hernandez as a potential right guard, right? And then, Max Williams left, but we drafted a couple of guards who I think are going to be good. I think the offensive line is no worse, if not a little better. If Hernandez plays as well in his rookie year, he graded, I think, in the 70s. He struggled from there, but if he goes back to that form, the offensive line is at least as good as it was last year, if not better, right? Yeah, and Guy Starks has better pass catchers. Yeah, and listen, Josh Jones was a tackle at Houston when he was in college. And, when he has played at tackle, he graded well for the Cardinals. It's when he played at guard, he didn't. And I think he could still be like maybe a future starting right tackle for the team. We'll see, but I think he's still got potential. But like that offensive line is not worse and might be better if Will Hernandez, right? So I think on the offense, I think you can argue that offense is as good or better, and it's deeper, right? You've got more depth, you could argue, like, with those guards that they drafted, at tight end, right? And then, here's another point also, this year, those guys who were rookies, first year guys now experience, right? So like some of those guys have another year, right? I would say that those two are penciled in. I mean, they're good. I think that like Pugh will be left guard. I think right guard is likely to be Hernandez. They might still have a competition there, right? With him, Josh Jones, and Justin Murray. But I think that Hernandez is going to be better as a guard, and I think he's going to win that. So, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to be, I told you so, but like folks who follow my channel know that I've been preaching patience. Like, let's judge the roster when late, like, down the road. And we haven't even got through the Keim time signings, right? There is still potential for Keim to sign someone, right? And JP, thanks for reminding everyone. Yeah, everyone click on the like button. If you aren't subscribed to my channel. I do live streams like this, usually every week. I do other content. So if this is your first time finding me, thanks for joining us. But I've been preaching patience, okay? And I know there's a lot of folks who have been frustrated. And maybe it's just part of being an old man who's been around and is used to being patient. But I've been preaching patient. Let's see the roster when it's done. Well, we got through free agency, okay, and we got through the draft, and now there's still some free agents to be signed. And I think the pass catchers are better. The offensive line is arguably better, or at least as good, right? Exactly, time season, right? I do think they need, and I think they need to have a plan for backup center. That's the one glaring thing on offensive line, because when Hudson got injured, Max Garcia was in center, the bad snaps, we all know what happened, right? But I think they can probably still sign someone like that, right? So I think on offense, they're better and deeper. Okay. Now defense is the area where, okay, there's the concern still, right? So let's talk about the defense. How does it compare to last year? Okay. Let's start with where I think there's still some needs. Defensive line. Last year, they ended up signing Corey Peters, who I think was a little bit injured. Rashad Lawrence was injured. And then JJ Watt got injured. But they had like the defensive tackles, Rashad Lawrence, Lecky Fotu, kind of defensive tackle, defensive end, more defensive tackle. So Rashad Lawrence, Lecky Fotu, Corey Peters, and then they had JJ Watt, kind of the defensive line. They have Zach Allen, and Michael Dogby. That's kind of that interior defensive line, right? Now, when you look at this year, Corey Peters is not back, right? But they have all those same guys, okay? They need to get a nose tackle in there, all right? Now, Rashad Lawrence, when he was healthy, played well. And I'm forgetting Jordan Phillips. They released Jordan Phillips, so, we all know he didn't really play much. He actually played decent when he was in there, but finally, right after 3 years, or 2 years. But so when you look at the defensive line, they need a nose tackle. There are guys they can sign out there, but they need to bring a nose tackle. If they can get a nose tackle, someone who's solid as a nose tackle to help as a run stopper, then I would say that defensive interior is as good as it was last year, but not better. And, with how they struggle against the run, that's still an area of need. So if they can get a good nose tackle, maybe it could be a little better. That's an area, though, where I'd say if they can sign one free agent, at least will be as good. Now, the edge rushers, that's probably going to be a step back. We like who they drafted, right? We like, the guy, Cameron Thomas. We like Majai Sanders. We like their potential. But they did lose Chandler Jones, right? So they still have Marcus Golden, who I absolutely love. Devin Kennard, who's better against the run, but he's fine, right? The rookies and Gardeck, right? So yeah, edge rush is going to be a little bit of an issue, right? Oh, we got Lance here. Lance, are you still in Costa Rica? Man, he jumped on the stream first round, and boy, jealous right now. But he's out there down there for his anniversary. So hope you're having a good time down there. So edge rusher's taking a step back. Okay, objectively speaking, without Chandler Jones, right? So that's a step back. And now it's still possible. There's some veterans they could sign. Maybe they do. Oh, you're back. You just got back. Well, welcome back, Senior Lance. Why? I hope you had a great trip and welcome back. So edge rushers, they've taken a step back. If they sign a veteran, maybe that gets it closer, but that's a step back. Now, Vance Joseph has shown he's got an ability to scheme up the pass rush, and Chandler Jones, after that 5-sack game, he was a little MIA, so maybe it's not as much of a downgrade as we feel like it is without him. I don't know. It'd be better if we had a healthy Chandler Jones, right? So pass rush took a step back. I do like the players they got, right? Now, middle linebacker, this is a big question, right? They signing Vigil, he's a nice depth guy. They got rid of Jordan Hicks, who I think a lot of people felt like was past his prime. The question is, Simmons is going to play and Collins is going to play. The question is Collins an improvement over Hicks? And that's yet to be seen. I think when he was healthy and he was on the field, I thought he looked good. So I'm optimistic, but there's a question mark there, right? I think the one part of the defense I mean, I think those other parts, at best, you can argue they've stayed as good. Like on defensive interior line, if they get a free agent in there, they're about as good as they were. Edge rushers probably taken a step back, but they've got some young guys that have a chance to. But I still think their edge rush is still going to be decent. But middle linebacker, yet to be determined, right? So there's a lot of question marks in the front. So that's a negative. I do think though, the cornerback room is one where there's a really good chance to argue that they're better. And let me kind of pose the argument. Like last year, last year cornerback was one of the biggest concerns. And, obviously with, Malcolm Butler retiring, that really threw us for a loop, right? And here's the thing is, like, we went into last year with Robert Alford, Marco Wilson, Byron Murphy Jr., and then Tay Gowan and Antonio Hamilton, right? That was our cornerback room, right? We traded Gowan, but those guys held up, right? They towards the end of the season when Alford went down, then it went bad. But when they were healthy, they held up. Well, so this year, right now, we've got Gladney, Murphy, Wilson, and they just re-signed Hamilton, right? I think they're going to sign another veteran. They met with Alford a couple weeks before the draft. I think they're going to sign him. We'll see. But if they sign Alford or someone comparable to him, basically what they've got is the cornerbacks they had last year plus Jeff Gladney, who was a first-round pick of the Vikings a couple years ago, okay? So basically, if they sign a veteran, we got last year's cornerbacks plus one more who was a first-round pick who's developing. And then, and Jordan P. made this point earlier, Marco Wilson's a year more experience, right? And he had his moments, he struggled, but that cornerback room, if they bring in a veteran in particular, like bring back Alford, is arguably deeper and better than they were last year. Maybe not substantially, but you've got a 1 year wiser and older Marco Wilson, and you've got the Jeff Gladney. Safeties, you've still got you've got Thompson and Buddha, who I love. And then, they've still got Deontay Thompson for depth. They'll probably bring back, maybe they bring back, one or two of the veterans. I think their safety room's as good as it was. The starters I think are great. So the corner or the defensive backs I think are as good and maybe a little better if they bring back Alford, right? Alford or someone comparable, right? Breland, I don't think he's with them anymore, but I think the other one that they signed from Tennessee, my brain isn't working right now. I think I need some coffee. Borders. I think Breon Borders, I think is still, they signed him, but I don't think Breland is still with them. So yeah, you also agree with that. So the defensive backs I think are as good or better, but the defensive front, linebackers, that's the question mark. Okay. So that's the question mark. So I think the offense is as good, if not better, and the defense is maybe taking a step back, but it's also not out of the realm of possibility that they could. And thank you for Borders is still with Borders, that's the guy they kept, right? So yeah, and if Byron Murphy takes a step forward, right? He started off well, right? Is this someone that they signed? I don't know. So now Wiggins is I know Wiggins is supposed to be like a special teams ace. So we'll see. He spent a lot of time in the practice squad. He was a rookie, so I will see. I'm still optimistic. He was coming out of college last year out of Cincinnati, supposed to be an ace gunner. So we might see him, right? So re-sign out for 1 year just in case of injuries. He knows. Yeah, I agree with that, right? So the biggest difference is we lost Chandler, right? So that's the question, right? But I don't know. I mean, I think the defense. I don't know. Maybe I'm the eternal optimist. I think they're going to probably sign at least one more veteran on that defense on the defensive line. I think could be. I think I don't know, but I think the offense is going to be better. We'll see. So And now I get there's also the argument, like, well, other teams are getting better and we are not, and we need to keep pace. But I would, again, maybe I'm just being an apologist, but I also look at it that when this team was healthy, they were the best team in the NFL in the first half of the season. They fell off. I know there's still questions. Is that because of the coach? And is there kind of a chronic problem that can't be fixed there? We'll see. But the hopeful spin on this is the reason they fell apart last year was the depth and that they're fixing that. But that frontline talent was good enough to have the best record in the NFL. So, if they can fix that depth and keep folks healthy, maybe, there's reason to be optimistic. We'll see though. I mean, listen, if end of the season things go bad, then we're going to have to look at this again. Right. So for sure. Let's see. Want to get, still need another safety. I'm nervous about Bake. Okay. Safety is one of those positions you can find veterans. There's always veterans available. So I'm not too worried about that. We got Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker, I think are really good. So I'm not worried about, right. And you think, Cardinals working on depth, not top heavy. Let's see. Easy saying our defense will be better than people think. We'll be younger at cornerback and edge. Chandler is not a good run defender, inconsistent pass rusher. And I mean, that's the version of Chandler Jones we got last year. He struggled against the run, was inconsistent, had one big game, and then, only got like 5.5 sacks the rest of the season. So, I mean, you could argue that bringing Chandler Jones back, if he's healthier and better, we might've been better, but the version of Chandler Jones, if I think you can make an argument that, okay, this defense will not be necessary that how can I say this? Like, would this defense be better if we had Chandler Jones right now? I'd say yes. Okay. Will this defense be worse than the defense last year because we don't have Chandler Jones? Maybe not, because the version of Chandler Jones we had last year struggled, if that makes sense. So could this defense, at least from a pass rush perspective, be equally as good as it was last year with the version of Chandler Jones we had last year? Maybe not, right? And listen, I love Chandler Jones as a player, and for what he was going to cost, I was on the side of not paying for it, right? So, yeah. Patrick Peterson. I mean, I loved Patrick Peterson, but he hasn't played as well. He's in recent years, so I know that's a kind of polarizing thing, right? If we had taken Benito rather than Trey, you feel like we'd be in better position on edge. I don't necessarily think so, because I'm not convinced that Benito is that much better than the guys we did draft. Thomas and Sanders. I mean, maybe he is, but I'm not convinced. Like we still got two edge rushers in round 3 that I think have a chance to be as good. So I'm not necessarily convinced that now, if we had, here's what I would say, if we had traded up and got Ebiketie, right? Or maybe Boye Mafe, then yeah, because I like those edge rushers better. That's just, I guess that's my opinion, but yeah. So, let's see, Pat, hey, listen, there's a lot of animosity, right? And this is a good point too. Dan, if folks who've been follow me, I talked about this a lot. Patrick Peterson was the most penalized cornerback in the league his last year with us. And last year we saw a major decline in that, right? So trade for Bradbury, Bradbury with the Giants is on the trading block. That's an interesting thought. I don't know what it would take to get him. The tough part is with the draft gone, those trades are a little less likely to happen. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but that could, have to trade a pick from next year probably. So that's interesting. Let's see. And, he's just saying Sanders out of Cincinnati going to be hidden gem. Looks like Randy Gregory tape edge. Listen, here's the thing. And this is, I think you might be right here. Majai Sanders, here's, and I talked about this earlier. The deal with him was, he was sick and couldn't keep food down, lost weight, got down to like 220 something, but he played at like 240, 250. And he lost that weight around kind of the pre-draft kind of process. And I think that hurt his draft stock, right? People wondered, is he too small? Or at least, he's more of a project. He's going to have to put on the weight. They were concerned about that. And I was concerned about that when I looked at his profile. But he's put on a lot of that weight back. He's, I think, closer to 250 now. And he was really good. So it's one of those things where to use kind of a term some people use, another is sometimes if you can find market inefficiencies or players that other people are undervaluing, right, that they're rating lower than they should be, that's a place where you find diamonds in the rough. And you could argue that Sanders is sort of one of those market inefficiencies. Teams undervalued him because they were concerned about his size, right? And but he was good enough to be considered, a day 2 prospect, and the Cardinals grabbed him, and he's putting that weight back on, and he's getting into kind of more towards his playing weight. And if he ends up, he could very easily be kind of the steal of the draft, right? So there's just so many things that could happen, right? Where did Adam Anderson did not, he ended up if you're not familiar with that, he had charges against him. And my understanding is that he was arrested. And so where he ended up is in prison. I hate to say that. There were rape charges, and it sounds like he was, I think, going to be convicted. So he's not playing football as well. He shouldn't be. Peterson, his rookie year punt returning was crazy good. Right. And then, he was a solid cornerback for a lot of years, but he dipped off for the last couple of years, right? If you could have any free agent at any position, who would you pick? Okay, great question. Now let me look at I'm assuming you're talking about current free agents, right? So current NFL free agents. Let's see if I can find who's still a free agent. Here, go to Spot Track, their free agent tracker, and let's see. And we'll look at all statuses available, update. Let's see. All right. In fact, what I will let's see if we can do this. Let's go ahead and share this tab. All right. So let's look at this. It's a little hard. Let's see if I can make it a little bigger. Okay. So this is Bot Track, current free agents. Okay. Oh, I'm seeing a couple votes for Odell, not Odell. Okay. And so you think Majai Sanders will be okay? Interesting, yeah. All right, so free agents. So there's Julio Jones, Nate Solder, Jarvis Landry, Tyrann Mathieu, Landon Collins, safety, Trey Waynes, Akeem Hicks, defensive end, JPP. Let's see, JC Treader. Interesting. He's more of he's been a starting center, but so he'd be a Eddie Goldman's interesting, defensive tackle. He might be one I might look at. I know that's not the sexy pick, but we need a defensive tackle. Looking at all these, Linval Joseph is interesting, defensive tackle. I know it's looking at receivers is kind of the what a lot of people would like to do, where people would want to go with that because it's a playmaker. But I feel like actually I like we talked about earlier, I like our pass catchers right now. David Johnson. For me, and now we're getting down kind of guys, Sheldon Richardson would be nice, defensive tackle. For me, maybe I might look at Akeem Hicks would be really nice. I know a lot of people talk about him. But if there's a cornerback, let's see if we can do cornerback. it's either going to be a cornerback or a defensive tackle. Kyle Fuller's interesting. He plays a little more sloppy. He can do both. Bryce Callahan, Xavier Rhodes has been up and down, but he's an interesting possibility. Man, I might have to go with like either Kyle Fuller or Bryce Callahan. Joe Hayden. I mean, listen, those veterans are, those veterans like play well, right? But I'm also tempted at 300-pound nose, right? So like, let's look, defensive tackle. All right, let's update that to defensive tackle. Eddie Goldman, Brandon Williams also. Sue's not really a nose tackle. Linval Joseph, and he's a veteran, but I might have to. I mean, Eddie Goldman or a cornerback, right? It's tough, but I mean, I feel like when in terms of when you look at what we need, cornerback is a need, right? But I feel like Robert Alford. You had Robert Alford to our current group, and we got a nice group of cornerbacks. But Callahan, Callahan would be nice. But I think that nose tackle to help against the run is just really a real big need. Oh, hey, we have payo time. Zach, appreciate you, buddy. Good to see you. They wanted Ariza, and they didn't. He wanted Ariza, and we had a little Twitter war, and neither of us got him. So, so we both were disappointed, and neither of us got Zach Tom, who we both also wanted. So, Deron Payne's interesting because I think they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, if I'm not mistaken. So, as Washington, what's going on with him, right? So that's an interesting one, right? So, getting a nose tackle would be probably my first choice. And, I know that's not the sexy pick, but man, that would help with our run defense. What about Josh Jones? Will he maybe come play tackle, or will we sit him? So Josh Jones, former 3rd-round pick, right? I think he's going to be our swing tackle unless he somehow wins that guard spot, which I think Hernandez is going to win. So I think he's going to be our swing tackle and the first guy who comes in and plays when someone gets injured. And he might, it might be the future starting right tackle or maybe even left tackle. We'll see. Right. And then favorite draft pick. So this, we talked about this in Discord. The question is how do we define that? Like a best player or the pick that I felt like they just really got this really great value. And like the pick, I feel like they did where I'm like, man, they just got a great value steal of a pick for me is actually that guard in the 7th round, Marquise Hayes. He was like supposed to be like a 3rd-round guard, 3rd, 4th-round guard. That's to me, like, that's the pick I look at. I'm like, man, that was such a great pick. But McBride is a guy who I think, is going to be a really good player for them. I think Sanders has a lot of upside, the running back, but I'm going to go with the 7th-round guard just because he was a guy I was hoping they would draft, and the way they got him, man, that late, I thought that was great. Let's see. And Peyo's asking, sorry if you already talked about this. Do you think Cardinals fans like the Hollywood trade, even when Brown may have been in play? So I'm not convinced AJ Brown was in play. I did talk about that a little bit because I think they really wanted Hollywood because of his connection with Kyler. So I will say that. But interesting enough, I'm a social scientist, so I am a believer in data, and I did a poll about this very thing. So actually, I can let me see if I can share this screen. And for those of you who are new to my channel, I sometimes do polls on the community page, and so we're asking questions and such. So let's see if we can get this big enough to see. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Okay, I did a poll about how people feel about. Let me take this down so we can see it. About the trade, and 53% of the people who responded, and I had a response of how many people? It's a little hard to see. Oh, because does it say over? It's over here. I had 537 responses to this poll, and 53% loved it. He's Kyler's boy. That's what I put. 33% were okay with it. 12% didn't like it, and 2% hated it. So at least, I don't know that this is a representative sample, but in my poll, they really liked it. And AJ Brown, wouldn't have been in play, and Jordan's right here. Like he had to be re-signed right away. And the Cardinals weren't looking to trade for someone that they had to pay right away. So I think, to answer your question, Peo, I think Cardinals fans are for the most part, from what I see, seem to be okay with it. That's what I'm sensing. So, yeah, good question. I appreciate y'all jumping on here. We've got a great group in here. I didn't even plan to do this live stream, but it's like, hey, you know what? The draft's over. I think people want to talk about it, right? Let's see. So let's see. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that, Pale. You're a good dude. I always say that, but you really are. So, yeah. So let's see. We got McBride. Think the great pass catching tight end. The mismatches are huge. Yeah. So Guy really likes that. And I know Liz, the McBride pick was a little polarizing, but I think it's good. Let's see. At least I don't have to hear about Kyler nonsense. Listen, I know like the whole, with everything kind of with that being in the news cycle, the Kyler contract. I'm not saying this is why they made the trade. I do think they made the trade part to make Kyler happy, part as a sign that they're committed to him long term. They brought his guy. I think part they like the player and what he brings. And David, yeah, I sure hope the optimism. Listen, it's going to have to show on the field, right? But like, think about like that Kyler Murray contract narrative was like just kept popping its head up in the news, right? Just, oh, is Kyler not happy? Are they going to trade Kyler? Are they going to, is Kyler not? And I've kind of all along kind of figured what was going to happen. Was that they're going to extend him? They just didn't want to do it until until they didn't want to do it just yet. And I think they'll do it this summer. But like, how, the media is, right? The media is they're going to do stuff that's going to get clicks and views. And the Kyler story got clicks and views. And, and I think, yes, the Kyler's agent didn't do him any favors with that letter he posted, and, the whole social media thing, that kind of blew up a little bit more than it should have. And I think all along, Kyler wanted an extension. He wanted it sooner. The team wanted to wait till after the draft to do it to the summer. And his agent was trying to put pressure. And I don't think it was ever as contentious as the media tried to make it sound like it was. But that's the story. But like, one really great side effect of this trade is that I think it's shut down that narrative that Kyler isn't happy or that they're not committed to Kyler. Kyler's not going anywhere. They got his boy here. He has a connection with him. And, the media loved that, right? Like beating a dead horse, right? And, and what's happened now is the media, I think that's killed that narrative. And so I don't think we're going to have to cross my fingers, knock on wood. I don't think we're going to have to hear any more stories about Kyler's not happy. The team's not, that's not happening. They're going to sign an extension and this will all be in the past. Right. So that's what I think's happening. And now I got a couple people. I'm worried about Rondale too. What we can do with Rondale Moore now, bench him. So that's a good question. So Rondale Moore, Rondale Moore last year was sort of the second slot receiver behind Kirk, right? So, on the outside, when they were healthy, they had DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Hopkins was the X, Green was the Z. And then they had the first slot receiver was Kirk. Sometimes they play him outside a little bit, but mostly, in the slot. And then they would sometimes, bring the tight end in. And when they were in 4 receiver sets, Rondale Moore was that fourth receiver, right? And they also used him a lot in sweep or like jet sweeps and receiver screens. And I'll tell you, like Rondale Moore is like the perfect player for jet sweep. I mean, I think he can do more than that, but he's the perfect player for the jet sweeps and the screen passes. Like if you've been following the Cardinals, like 2 years ago and 3 years ago, like the first year under Kyler, like the first year with Kyler Murray, okay, in 2019, the offense was predictable. Like what it felt like was this: they would throw the ball, or in 2020, I would say actually it was more this way. They would throw the ball to DeAndre Hopkins on hook, curl routes, right? They just throw it to him all the time, or they would throw a screen pass to Larry Fitzgerald, who loved Larry, but he not the most, elusive guy, but they throw screens to him, right? And if that didn't work, Kyler would scramble, right? That's kind of what happened early on. And like with Rondale Moore, he is so much more elusive. He's the perfect guy for those screen passes and those bubble screens and those jet sweeps. So he's going to have a role in that. And, I think someone said in here, there was a comment. Yeah, he's our Deebo. They might use him a little like Deebo Samuel, right? Kind of that. So they're going to use him. And, he might get some of those roles that like Chase Edmonds had in the offense. He might take some of those snaps. So if you're like buying Rondale Moore stock, the trade does hurt that stock, because before the Hollywood Brown trade, what you kind of thought was, okay, Rondale Moore is going to step into Christian Kirk's role and get more targets. And now it looks like that's not going to happen. He's going to be relegated back to the role he was in last year. But early in the season, that role got a lot of touches. I mean, he wasn't our leading receiver. It trailed off later. But when the offense was working, he was part of it. He's not. So what I think is right now, he's probably not having the increased target share we were hoping for, but he's going to have a role. It may not be as big as we would like, right? So that's what I think is going to happen with him. We'll have to see. So I think now I think when he said that about Rondale Moore, it was before the trade. So it was going to be Kirk's role, and now it's not, right? So that's kind of what I think is going on, but I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I'm with you. Those failed wide receiver screens. Obviously, listen, I love Larry Fitzgerald, all-time great, favorite Cardinal all time, best ambassador of the team, all those things. But when they drafted Rondale Moore, I was like, he's going to get those screen passes, and I'm not going to have to see any more screens to Larry Fitzgerald. And I was happy about that. God bless him. Right. Let's see. Yeah. And listen, that catch against the Vikings, he had some huge plays. So we'll see. Right. And, we can rotate these guys too more and keep them fresh. And I think that's probably what will happen some too. So, so I think, so we can use him more in the run playbook. I'm going to draw an analogy or an illustration to like basketball. And I maybe it's like, there are players who like are great players, or are good scorers in a basketball. Basketball player is a good scorer. But if they're on a team where they don't have a lot of good players around them, they're going to score a ton of points, right? And like, let me use an echo. James Harden. I know some people may not love him, but when James Harden was drafted, he was drafted, to the Thunder, right? And he played, they had Westbrook and what's his name? My brain isn't working. But anyway, they had stars on that team, and he only scored 15 points a game, but he was on a better team, right? And then he went and he got traded to Houston, I think it was, and he became the guy there and was scoring. All this became this big time scorer, right? Paul George, was he with them at that point? Durant's the guy I'm thinking. Thank you. I need more caffeine. So here's where I'm going. So hopefully my scattered thoughts make sense, right? Yeah, like James Harden, right? But then he was on his own, right? So here's kind of where I'm going with this. In a basketball team, you can have a team where you've got a really good player and there's not a lot of good players around him, and they'll score 25, 30 points a game. But then you take that player and you put him on a team with a lot of other really good players, and maybe they go from like 25 points a game to like 19 points a game, but the team's better and maybe even a championship team, right? And the question is that player like, yeah, they're not scoring as much, but are they a worse player? No, they're on a better team where they don't have to carry as much load. But if the team's better, they'll take that. So I think you might see where I'm going with this. Like, if this receiving core is deep and Rondale Moore doesn't get as many touches as we had hoped, right? And he's a guy, but his touches matter, and the team is deep and they're winning. That's the thing that matters. They have to be winning. But if they're winning and they're deep and they've got Hopkins, Green, Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz, and yes, Rondale Moore is only doing a few screens and a few short passes and getting, a fewer touches than he would be otherwise, but they're winning. And Rondale Moore is like your fourth option or fifth option even. That is, impact over volume, right? I would rather have a team where Rondale Moore gets 40 receptions over the course of the season and they win than a team where he catches 80 balls and they lose, right? So that's kind of my take on it. But they have to win, right? It doesn't matter if they don't win. So absolutely, right? So yeah. If we if we collapse again in the second half of the season, what will we do? Fire Cliff? I don't think they will. I think the team has to have two consecutive losing seasons before Cliff's on the hot seat. Do I think it should be that way? I don't know. I'm not so sure. It depends on how it goes down. I mean, if they regress to like a 4-win team, you got to really look at that. If they win 7 games or 8 games, I don't know that they're going to do that. But I think you need. I don't think he'll be out, and I think he would not be fired unless they had 2 consecutive losing seasons. But we'll see. We got Alexis. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Hey, we're all hanging out, burning the midnight oil, right? You can't rotate receivers like I'm in because KT needs able to anticipate his receiver's location. I mean, I think you can rotate them a little. You can like receivers get a little sometimes. Like usually your 2 outside receivers usually kind of stay on pretty consistently, but sometimes they'll rotate in some of those slot guys and they have different plays for different ones. So, I mean, it depends what you mean by rotate, I guess. So yeah. Let's see. Hey, we got Eduardo Brunetto. Thank you for being here. Hey, Joe, the job made me come late, but now I'm tuned in to the stream. Appreciate you. Eduardo was a regular part of our mock draft Mondays that we were doing. So, so good to have you here. What do you think the Cardinals record? Are you asking like, what do I think their are you asking for a prediction for this year? I'm not sure. Let me know what you're asking. Let's see. So Hollywood wanted out of Ravens because he wasn't using enough. Now a better team that might not get the ball enough. Kirk won't be. Well, maybe that's a fair point, except I think he's, I think he'll get the ball a little more. He may not get as much. I mean, listen, it's true. He was like kind of the primary receiver for a while there. I think whatever frustration he might have with getting a lower target share, being with his boy Kyler, I think that'll smooth that over. I think he will. Sometimes it's like, how can I say it? There are things we want in situations, and if we don't get what we want in a situation, if there's something else we get, it might make us be okay with that, if that makes sense. Like he'd like to be used more, and that was his concern, right? That he had that tweet. What was it? He said, "What's the point of having soldiers if you're not going to use them?" Kind of basically saying he was being underutilized, and that was part of the reason he wanted out. So that's fair. But it's like if if you're in a situation, where you're not being utilized, you're frustrated. But if you're in another situation where you're not getting as many touches because there's a lot of receivers there, but you're playing with the guy you really want to play with, maybe that you'll tolerate it. I don't know. Okay, win losses for next year, a prediction. Ooh. I haven't looked at the schedule. It's not specific. It's not exactly. I know the opponents are out. I don't know if the schedules are out, but let's see. Let me see if I can get the Cardinals 2022 schedule, or at least they're Arizona. Well, now let's see, Arizona Cardinals. Let's see if we can look at. I mean, off the top of my head, I want to say 10 wins, but all right. Okay. I'm going to bring this up. I don't know if this is, I just found a website that has this. I don't know if this is just the first one that came up. All right. So this is what it says our schedule, or at least the teams we're playing. I don't think the schedule's out yet, if I'm not mistaken, but obviously Rams, Niners, Seahawks, then Saints, Bucks, Chiefs, Chargers, Falcons, Panthers, Broncos, Raiders, Rams, Niners. Okay. All right. So that's a little bit of a tough schedule. So let me kind of, let's say be optimistic. It's 17 games, and eventually I think they're going to go up to 18 games eventually, but I mean, it looks like it's supposed to be pretty tough. So let's say we split with the Rams. We've actually been good against the Niners lately. Let's say I'm gonna, me, I'm optimistic. Okay. Yeah. May 12th is when the season comes out. Yeah. I figured, I think it was in May. So let's say we split with the Rams. I'm going to be optimistic. Y'all, if you've been around my channel, I'm optimistic. Split with the Rams. Let's say we split with the Niners, sweep the Seahawks, right? So that's 4 wins. Let's say we beat the Saints 5, lose the Bucks, lose the Chiefs, win. Okay, so 6 wins when we go to the Falcons, 7 wins Carolina. Denver's going to be tough with Russell. Let's say we lose that one but win this one. So what's that? So let's see. I had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's say we beat the Patriots, 10 against Eagles. Yeah, I mean 10 to 11 wins. I mean, I know I'm being optimistic, but I think we can beat the Vikings, Eagles, and Patriots. They're always tough with the coach, but I know we never beat them. So this will be the year, right? Hopefully. Listen, if Baker Mayfield is their quarterback, right? Kyler's got a good record against them. I mean, it's a tough schedule, but Minnesota's beatable, Philly's beatable, New England's beatable. Seattle is going to be, kind of a mess right now. I think we've shown we can beat the Niners. Rams are tough, but we did split them last year. Raiders, they're a decent team, but I think they're beatable. Broncos might be tough with Russell. Carolina, I know for us doesn't seem beatable, but Falcons are rebuilding. New Orleans, they're kind of in transition. Yeah, I mean, I see 11 wins there. Any team is beatable, absolutely, right? I mean, so we got some optimistic, 11-6, even 13-4. I see 11 wins there. I think it's there, and more. Obviously, more than that is there, but I don't think it's a crazy. If this team is good, like we hope they are, and they're improved in some ways or healthier, right? Yeah, see, 11-6, okay. More like 116, okay. Yeah. Well, why don't you all put what you think in the chat? What do you think? Agent French thinks 8 and 9, okay. The floor is 8 and 9, okay. Yeah, okay. Listen, I'm an optimist, and you know what? I'm going to go through life as an optimist, or at least try. Life's too short to be a pessimist, right? And I know a lot of people are like, hey, okay, so in this may be my soapbox, right? But like, here's kind of the way I look at it. Like, I know a lot of people are like, we want to hold the team accountable. If we're enabling them, if we give them all these, we make all these excuses and we're optimistic, we're just making it easier. And like, I don't know. I don't think, like I says, I don't think I'm that important that the team cares me individually, what I think. I mean, I know they care generally what the fan thinks, but like, I don't think me being some kind of hard-nosed, harsh, like, they're, just calling them out and taking them to task and being negative and me being super critical of the team. I don't think that makes it better. Like, I get that your owner and your coach and your GM have to be no nonsense and they have to have high standards and expectations. And I get that. But like for me as a fan, all that does is makes me frustrated. So I'm going to try to be optimistic but have some measure of, a little bit of critical thinking. But so I'm going to be optimistic. I know that's my little soapbox. All right. So we got Moore's Legacy 12-5. 12-5, 12-5, 9-8. My prediction. I want to get my hopes. Up. Okay, 14-3. More sacks this season. Thomas and Sanders or Chandler Jones? Oh, good question. I'll come back to it in a second. Floor, I believe 8 wins, ceiling 13. My guess 7-6. Okay, that's a good guess. So this is an interesting question, right? Tom, do I think who will get more sacks? Our rookies, Majai Sanders and Cameron Thomas or Chandler Jones. I am going to say Chandler Jones, and I like the rookies, but I'm not convinced that either of them is going to be a full-time starter. I think they'll be part of the rotation. Chandler Jones is going to be the primary, he's going to be starter, pass rusher. So I think I'm going to say Chandler Jones this year. Yep. Kardec's getting 10, right? Yeah. So I don't want to call out anyone else who does work in this area, but Clancy definitely has critical he's he likes critical takes, and that's just not my style. So I'm not going to criticize someone else. That's his thing. But yeah. So yeah, Gardek's gonna get 10, right? Yeah. So I think, I don't think the rookies are gonna, it's absolutely possible one of them earns a starting job and totally, it has a great rookie year. That's absolutely possible. But I think they're gonna go with a rotation, they're gonna work them in, and yeah. Age of 47, I think Chandler will have double digits in Las Vegas. I think that's absolutely the good likelihood. Yeah, Golden could get 10. I love Marcus Golden. He's got, I think, 3 double-digit sack seasons in his career. And as long as he's healthy, I see him doing it again. Absolutely. Hey, I'd love it if Sanders got, a Parsons type season. What did he have? Like 13 sacks or something like that? I don't remember exactly, right? Yeah, so I think they have all these edge rushers, young edge rushers they're going to develop, and I think they're going to rotate them in and out. And I don't think one of them is going to be the dominant guy. So yeah. Is that what he had? Okay. 13-5. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'll go my prediction for last season. 13-4. However, 2 of the 4 losses are going to be bottom tier teams. Barely beat the Jags last year and end up getting slapped by the Lions. Could be, right? Absolutely. Oh, we've got someone who needs to be blocked. All right. All right. Let's block that person too. All right, good. Okay. So there we go. Okay. Let's see. Do you think we might sign Clowney, veteran linebacker, to have in our locker room to teach our young guys? I don't think so. I think Clowney is going to go somewhere where he's going to get a little more money than what we're going to probably have available to offer. I think when you talk about bringing someone into your locker room, like, you've got these young guys and you want a guy to develop, be that influence. I like JJ Watt is that guy, I think, and Marcus Golden. I think those are, like Watt is totally locker room guy. And I think what Golden is the guy who brings the energy. And I don't like when you talk about bringing a guy into your locker room, I don't know Clowney and I don't know a lot about him, but like if you're bringing a guy in to be a locker room influence, you better know him or feel really confident. And I just don't know I don't know that I've heard that Clowney is this, really great locker room guy. I'm not saying he's a bad, I just haven't heard. And if you've heard something different, let me know. like, with JJ Watt, that's the guy you look at, you're like, hey, yeah, that is the guy. That's the guy you bring in. You know him to be a good locker room guy, right? And so they brought him in that way. But I just don't know if he's that guy too, if that makes sense. So yeah. So I don't think they will, but we'll see, right? Yeah, and I think the Cardinals have a good locker room, right? So yeah, I think so. Okay, here we go. Good question. All right. Is there a pick that you didn't want or was disappointed of, or were you really happy about the picks this year? So I know we've been talking about this for a while, but I'll come back with this. Like the one, like their pick in the second round, McBride, I like the player and I've come around to it. I mean, I think he's a good player. And we've talked about this a lot earlier, but man, I wanted Travis Jones to be that defensive tackle, nose tackle to fix the run defense. And I was so disappointed because I didn't think Travis Jones would be there at 55 and he was there. And I'm like, he's there. We can get him. And then we took McBride. So I was disappointed. I like McBride and, I think he's going to be a good fit, but that one I was, and so, there was Christian Matthews. We talked about him earlier, the cornerback they took later. There were guys I would have rather they taken than him. But, one of the guys I wanted to take, Marquise Hayes, they ended up taking anyway. So I'm not going to be too upset about that. But overall, I like what they did. So yeah, so maybe splitting hairs. I was a little bit kind of, a couple of those, but yeah. Let's see. I'm going to real quick. Sorry, what I'm going to do while I'm here, there's all those spammers. Hopefully I got them all. Let me know if I don't, but I might set up I'm going to set up a few folks who are regulars here as some admins. I'm going to make a few moderators in here. If you're a moderator, you've got that wrench and you see one of those kinds of guys that are problematic. Please go ahead and get those guys out of here. I think. Okay. Yes. Anyway. So yeah, good question though. So David likes the draft. Okay. Yeah. Here's an interesting question. Who gets more receiving yards, more Brown? I think it's probably Brown. I think I think that's probably a pretty safe bet, right? The connection and how they're going to use them. I think. Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably who it's going to be. So yeah. Let's see. So David I think Cam Thomas and Mujay will be great. I mean, they've got a lot of potential. So I love those picks, right? Absolutely. The depth in this draft made our 6th and 7th round picks probably a full round higher, which is nice. Yeah. I mean, listen, those I keep talking about, but those guards, right? That the 2 guards they drafted, both were supposed to be like 4th round, 3rd round kind of guys. So absolutely. Let's see. I think the Hollywood Brown trade is a big upgrade compared to Christian Kirk. I think he's an upgrade too. I mean, Kirk's a nice player, and he's talented, but I think it's an upgrade. I do think it is. Yeah. Real quick, let me just remind everyone, thanks for being here. Click like if you haven't. Also, they're down in the description below. There are links to the Discord server. Join our Discord server. It's an active server. We're talking Cardinals all the time. If you want to be able to talk Cardinals with a group of folks, that they're join. There's a link down there. And we're in there. I mean, there's every day there's some sort of conversation. At least there has been during the off season. It's a good group of folks. A lot of the folks that are here now are in there. So please check that out. Yeah, they have Nick Vigil as linebacker also. Yeah, nice depth, right? Okay, good question. Was running back a need? I was kind of confused on that pick. And in my opinion, I felt like it was a waste. Hopefully he proves me wrong, but I just don't think we needed that. But at the same time, he saw depth. I actually did like taking a running back. And in mock draft Mondays that we had been doing every week, almost every mock draft I did, I took a running back at pick in one of those 6th round picks. because you look at it last year, they had Chase Edmonds, James Conner, Eno Benjamin, and Jonathan Ward, right? Well, Edmonds has left, and they haven't done anything to replace him yet. Now, a lot of people hope that Benjamin would step in and Edmonds' role, and maybe he will, but they're down one running back. And so I think I did think it was a need to get one. I didn't want them to go early with one. Think about, look at all those picks they had, in the 6th and 7th round. So to get they had all, like, was it 5 picks or whatever, 4 or 5 picks today. So it's like, I think that was a good use of a pick. So personally, I like it. But also part of that's my philosophy on how you address a running back room. And I know I've talked about this before, but my philosophy is that what you do is you every year or two you draft a guy, right? You draft someone who is, and you just kind of keep that pipeline going, and you don't pay big contracts to running backs, right? I don't mind the Connor one. I think it was a reasonable contract, but you kind of keep those guys going, and you keep drafting because you can find them. So I like the pick, and I do think, I thought it was a good use of a pick. So you think Keontae Ingram will have the chance to be James Conner complimentary back? I do think he will. I mean, it's going to be him. It seems like it's going to be him or Eno Benjamin. Maybe Eno gets those snaps this year. But I think I think he's got a good chance. And, I said this earlier, Brett Coleman, who does YouTube stuff, really great YouTube content creator, NFL stuff, loved Keontae Ingram, had him as one of his better underrated running backs, and loved the fit for what Arizona does. So, hey, listen, I, gotta keep the other people in your life happy. Thanks for being here, Drew. Appreciate that. So yeah, I think, let's see. And, let's see, all low round picks, running backs, the most likely like you can get good running backs, I mean, all the way through the draft. So it's such a good value to take them late. Absolutely. So let's see. And then, it's like what you said in Discord, Cliff seems to have his type in a running back, seems like our new running back too. Yeah, those big running backs, right? Yeah. Jason likes it. Yeah, Myjai Sanders, we've been talking about him. Yeah, I think a lot of folks like him as well. Yeah. So they have Jalen Samuels, who never really did much with them. So, they signed him, but but never really. So I don't know how much he's in the picture. You're right. I've seen him on him listed on the roster, but I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. Right. Let's see. I don't know why, but before the pick, I really felt that would be a running back drafted in our 201. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, whenever I did a mock draft, and I always ended up taking a running back, kind of like, sorry, I'm going back to look at, so yeah, he was picked 201. And I'm telling you, like almost all my mock drafts, I took a running back there because that was our first pick after that long break, that long wait. And that's where I always grabbed a running back in my mock drafts on Mock Draft Mondays. And so I think it shouldn't be surprising. Yeah. Jonathan Ward's on the roster, and he's a guy who's, who's been on the roster for a couple of years, hasn't, I think, more of a special teamer, but yeah. Let's see. Jacob's available in Vegas next year, right? Yeah. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, I think, right? Is that right? I think I heard that. If Cliff doesn't work, should we consider Jim Caldwell? Let's see. Is that the coach who used to coach the Lions? If I'm remembering, I think I'm thinking the same one. I mean, he's a veteran coach, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, so maybe I'm not really thinking ahead, but yeah, I don't know. Jalen Samuels used to be on the Steelers, but he is, I think they signed him, but he never really did much with them. Right. So yeah. So see, I think Kyler had a lot to say in this draft. Maybe the Cards and Kyler made up. I think, and we talked about this where I don't think it's ever been all that contentious. I think it's just, leveraging for contracts. So we'll see. Yeah. Oh yeah. 0-3 in Vegas for 5th year is, yeah, they had a rough stretch there, didn't they? With what was his name? He was the NFL Network analyst who became the general manager, and as a draft analyst, he wasn't much of a general manager, I guess, right? Yeah, Ty Chandler was off in the running back I took. Yeah, Mike Mayock, thank you. That's the guy. Yeah, he struggled. Ty Chandler, man, I took him so many times, and he was a really popular pick in mock draft Mondays. I think he was already gone, but yeah. Did we sign? Yeah, we signed Ronnie Rivera, running back, undrafted free agent. We'll see. We'll see if he makes rosters. Probably, those guys often are more camp bodies. I think with the numbers, they'll probably keep 4 running backs. So, I think the 4 are pretty well set. Probably, Connor, Ingram, Eno, Benjamin, and Ward. But there's room on the practice squad, right? So, yeah, Cliff has all these playmakers, so needs to work now. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Needs to stay healthy too. I don't know if you answer this, but do you think the bigger, who do you think is the bigger friend of Kyler CD or Hollywood? That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to know because I don't know. It sounds like Hollywood is. I don't know. I don't know, but that seems like the one that they're really they've talked about more, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not in their world, but yeah. Let's see, to your whole basketball analogy, I agree. Plus all of the other teams' defenses have to scheme for those players plays as well. Yeah. So the more players to scheme for, right? Yeah. That's true, right? Are the Cardinals going to win the Super Bowl? I hope so. I don't know. I mean, it's there's some tough teams, but yeah. Did we trade Eddie Isabella? We did not. I think, I just don't, I agree. I don't think he had any trade value. I think they tried to, yeah. But I think they're going to, maybe they keep him on the roster, but I think there's a good chance he gets cut. We'll see though. Yeah. Super Bowl's on home turf. So we'll see. Right. Let's see. Okay, so you've rather had Mike Rose than just the kid. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. Yeah, I mean, when you get to that point, those 7th round picks, the guard I absolutely wanted, Marquise Hayes. That's the one I'll thumb wrestle you for that one. I'm glad you took Marquise Hayes, but when you talk about those other 7th round picks, if you're like, hey, I wish they would have taken him instead of Lukeda, I'm like, okay, I mean, for the most part, there might be a few players like I didn't think they should have, but that's fine. Lucadas can, we'll see what he does. Like Hayes is the only one I really feel strongly about there in the 7th round. And then the guard in 6th round, I like that they got. Trade Isabella the Bills for Matt Ariza. Here's hoping, right? He must be a Cardinal, right? And that's, if you were part of our mock draft Mondays, that we loved him around here, Matt Ariza. Let's see. Kyler and Hollywood always been best friends and play video games together. Works over. Okay, so there you go. There's some more inside information on that, right? So yeah. Do I think XFL, new NFL Europe? I don't know. I don't really follow those leagues much, so I don't know. Here's the thing. This sounds really kind of maybe for a league to last. How can I say? The thing that really matters is financial backing. Here, to be honest, for any of those leagues to really make it, they need to have a financial backing that will commit to them even when they're not making money. So I don't know enough about what's going on with that. So I don't know. Yeah. Do you think Collins can have a breakout season? I absolutely think he can. I know a lot of people are down on him. But when he was in, he looked good last year, and he's got the physical tools. He's he's got some skills in terms of like he's decent against the run and he's better against the pass than people realize. People think a big linebacker's a thumper, but he was also in college good against the pass. I think he's going to be on the. I mean, they're going to get him on the field. I think he's going to be starting, and I think he's going to be good. Again, I'm optimistic. So what about our CFL? I mean, your CFL up there seems like it's been there for a while and pretty stable, right? So it's got a nice foundation. So there you go. Bring N'Keal Harry home. Trade Isabel for Harry, right? Yeah, a lot of people have kind of suggested that. I mean, hasn't happened. I think what's going to end up happening is Isabel is going to get cut. I think N'Keal Harry will eventually be cut, or at least not re-signed, and whatever new team they're gonna get on, it'll be after they're either released or not re-signed. So let's see. I don't know how Donovan West fell so far. Last I saw he was supposed to be a third. Yeah, that was weird. And him and also Kellen Deitch, those were both guys that were supposed to go, at least according to PFF's rankings, and clearly they ranked them higher than everyone else did. Donovan West I saw signed as a undrafted free agent with San Francisco, so he'll be in the division, right? Yeah, I'm worried that fans will start. I'd be lying if I said that fear isn't somewhere in the back of my head. He better not. He better not. I'm with you there, right? Let's see. State Farm Stadium is cursed when teams get first and goal in the goal line. When did Travis Jones go? He went. I know where. Right, he went to Baltimore, right? When I'm pretty sure that's where he went. So let's see. Which that's of course the most Baltimore. Yeah, he went to Baltimore in the pick 76 in the third round. It was the 12th pick of the third round, right? Which team do you think had the best draft? Honestly, that's a good question. I haven't looked at all the teams closely. I'm looking at the Ravens here. Let's do a little screen share, shall we? All right, let's see. Look at. Okay, now I think Baltimore. Listen, anyone who listens to me enough, I think Baltimore is one of the best drafting teams in the NFL. They have been. Since Ozzie Newsome took over. I mean, they got Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, David Ojabo, Travis Jones, Daniel Falele, Armour Davis, Charlie Kohler, good tight end, Jordan Stout, punter, good. They like their tight ends. Tyler Beatty, a good running back. I mean, Baltimore killed it, which they always do. And the Jets too, and the Jets had so much draft capital. We were talking about the Discord, or you can mess it up when you have that much draft capital. And so kudos to them, they made good picks. But man, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall, Jeremy Ruckert, a nice tight end, Max Mitchell, nice tackle. Clemens is a guy who they only picked in those early rounds, is it? Okay, but they had really good picks, so it is hard. Or I shouldn't say it's hard, but it's easy to win if you get it right with that many picks. But yeah, they're up there. So I don't know if anyone else has some teams, but I heard that so did you hear about him? I heard that they signed him. I just don't know much about that, but I did hear that. So I'm hearing a couple Jets, Ravens, Ravens, really good draft. Yeah. I think Hollywood is wearing 15. That's what I've heard, unless there's something different, right? So yeah. Cliff, I think he was drafted by the Patriots and played like maybe a year or two there, right? Let's see. 49ers refused to trade with the Jets to move up to 10 for Debo. I heard that too during the draft. So that was kind of interesting. That went down that way. Yeah. So it's been an eventful day. So I tell you what I'm gonna do is I know we've got 2.5 hours, right? And it is it's flown by. I'm gonna put a poll in here though. I'm gonna bring this up, and I'm gonna do a poll to I want to ask you all real quick. Give me a second to get it set up. but I'm going to create a poll. All right. And grade Cardinals draft. All right. And I'm going to ask you all, I want to see what you all think. Ask you to grade their draft. C, D. All right. All right. It only gives me 4 options, so sorry. You're lower. And I'm going to put this in there. All right. Was he? Interesting. That's interesting. Okay. All right. Did we actually sign Stokes yet? I don't know. All right. I just put a poll and I want you all to grade the Cardinals draft, and we'll probably do that and then end on that because it's been 2.5 hours. You guys have been great to hang out with. So Stokes, I don't know. Go ahead, and there's a poll in there, so go ahead and if you would. Let's see, I've got 13 votes so far. So, did we actually sign Stokes? Who, I'm not sure I'm following, and maybe my brain isn't working. Stokes, who's Stokes that we were supposed to be signing? So I'm seeing some people. We got a B plus, A. Just be you like McBride, LOL. B plus. The poll is so far getting a lot of B's. Okay. So we'll give it maybe another couple minutes or a minute or two. All right. So Matthew is, he's old, right? Okay. Defensive tackle from OU. Oh, I think, okay. Yeah, I think there was I think we did, right? I might have even, I feel like there was a guy that we did sign. Well, there's a guy named Hodge that we signed. Maybe I'm not sure. Good question. Yeah, he transferred around a little bit, so that was interesting. Christian Matthews, right? Yeah, Patriots. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So I've got 17 votes. So there's a poll in there. We got 51 folks in here, and I've got 17 votes. So we're voting on what you think the Cardinals draft, how you would grade the Cardinals draft. Okay. Oh, maybe we've convinced you, right? We've to go from a C to a B. All right. Got 19 votes. So while that's going, let me just kind of a couple things. Listen, thank you everyone for being here, hanging out. I'm going to be trying to do at least one live stream a week. During the summer, there might be a few weeks to take off because, as you all probably know, there's not any NFL news for a little while in June, July, but I'll be doing live streams talking about Cardinals news most weeks. I do, if you're not familiar with the channel, I do videos, analysis videos and various things. So, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Also, there's in the description, there's a link for a Discord server. I've plugged that a few times. We've got like 100 and almost 110, I think, folks in the Discord, and it's a good active group that talks Cardinal stuff. So if you want to get your Cardinals fix in, that's a good place to do it. And be sure, obviously, click like on this video, all that good stuff. And I also real quick want to do a shout out and thank the folks who are channel members. There's a group of folks who, some of them have been in here. I think Calvin's been in here. JP was in here earlier. Red Sea, Simon's been in here. And these are folks that support the channel, so I want to thank them as well. Do a shout out for them. So, okay. What is Discord? Listen, David, I'm also a little sometimes technologically challenged. I wasn't into Discord. it's a server that sometimes it's a chat server that can be used for, it can be used for voice chat or also just text chat. So it's I use it primarily really just for text chat. So it's kind of a place you can go, and it's like almost like for old folks like me, the closest thing I can say, yeah, it's a group messaging app. It's kind of like a chat room group messaging. So if you go into it, it's an app you can have on your phone. I have it on my desktop also, and I have it open. And in fact, here maybe I can do a screenshot. Maybe it'll. Can I do a screenshot of that? Let's see. No, maybe it doesn't let me do that. Oh, wait, I can do the whole window, can't I? Oh, let me set it up. Okay. This is old man doing technology. Okay. Entire screen. So I'm going to share. So here's my screen. And on this screen, you see this is the Discord server, right? And, we've got these text channels, and you can see this is the conversation in here and links and stuff. So, and there's a general chat. There's a game day chat during game days. We're usually in there hanging out. Be the GM. There's a lot of, but the general community is probably the one we use the most. And it's where we all kind of hang out and talk. Where's the Discord link at? It is down below in the description of the video. Let me see. And I can also, let's see. Let me I'm going to post a link in here that should also work in the, okay. So there's a link in the chat. I think that should work as well. Yeah, there you go. Nice. There you go. Okay. There we go. So yeah, it's there we go. Here we go. Another good description. It's like a mix of WhatsApp and Facebook. Yes, thank you for all those of you who have a better idea of how to explain that than I do. Yes. But yeah, it's a place, it's a community where we all kind of hang out and keep, post news and information, and it's a good group. I see some of you jumped in here, so awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So, boy, 2 hours, 41 minutes. We've got all the time. Oh, let me look at that poll. We got 35 votes. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. The consensus well, not consensus, but like the overwhelming favorite is a grade of B. 71% said a B. And I think that's probably fair. 17% A, 8% C, and 2% D or lower. So it seems like a lot of you folks are in the chat are generally optimistic about this draft. So glad to hear that. Now, obviously, here's hoping, right, that they actually prove it on the field. All right, 2 hours, 42 minutes. I really appreciate y'all being here. It's been great hanging out. Make sure if you haven't checked out, I did a video. I've done a couple of videos. I did one on Trey McBride, talking about kind of player comps. So I encourage you to check that out if you haven't done that yet, so you can kind of see, how he profiles. Yeah, you like McBride. He looks great. I think I'm optimistic too, right? Yeah. Shaq with Tyreek as wide receiver, tight end Moss. Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to call it a night. It's been really great hanging out with you guys. The draft is come and gone. What is your next breakdown going to be? What I'm probably going to be doing is some videos about the draft picks. That's what I did last year. Is I did some profile. What I'll probably do is some videos that are some version of what I did with McBride, where I'm going to take some of the draft picks and kind of look at which current NFL players they profile like based on their physical traits and their skill set, and try to kind of give basically their comps, right? NFL comps, and maybe a few other details. So what I did last year is after the draft, I did a series of those I didn't do one for all the draft picks, but I did one for like 4 or 5 of them. And I will probably in the coming week or two do videos on some of the prominent draft picks. And so, what's your thoughts on Cameron? So when I do a video on him, you'll get more in-depth thoughts. But my short version is I really like the potential. He's good against the run. I think he's got potential as a pass rusher. And I think I think it was a really great pick. So yeah. We've got those folks. Block user. All right. All right. So let's see. We'll get a couple more questions and we'll probably call it a night. When McBride was selected, it was why, and then but when I saw his highlight, I changed my mind. Yeah, I mean that's kind of I think how a lot of people, right? Yeah. Center kind of looks like smaller Chandler Jones. Sanders on his good days, good plays, just needs to be consistent. Hopefully, is a great pick. Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of potential too, right? Yeah. Oh God, the spammer. Yeah, no doubt. So anyone who's got a wrench, you should be able to also block those folks. But all right, thank you guys for being here. I know I've said that 12 times, right? But you think it's definitely the pickup that we needed. Yeah. I'm going to call tonight. It's been great hanging out with you. Keep an eye out. We'll be doing live streams in the coming weeks. Good night. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. If anyone can find Matthew's film, send to Discord. Yes. What I think, Vaughn, about Christian Matthews is I don't know enough about him. Probably a special teams player, I'm guessing, but as we find out more, yeah. Good night. Thank you. So what's next is I'll probably do a video. If I had to guess, it would be on Cameron Thomas. Probably. Either that or Majai Sanders, but probably Thomas. So good night from Brazil. I appreciate my fellow member of the Cardinals diaspora. So yes, thank you, everyone. Everyone have a great night. We're going to end it. Be well. Peace.